All right, I think we're on the air. Hello, YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
There is nobody there. We forgot our fancy microphone today, so the sound's going to be kind of garbage. But that's okay, because nobody's here. So no one's going to care.
Steam cares.
All right, we are going to... Oh, I should share my screen. Going
Do
to
some talking.
do this. We're going to do some talking for nobody in different voices. And we'll say share.
It actually sounds fine.
It sounds fine.
It sounds good even.
Does it really?
Maybe sounds better.
Oh, my really expensive Yeti microphone is worth all its money. Don't tell me otherwise. Okay.
It actually sounds really good.
Oh God, that's super annoying.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do some talking.
All right.
Let us pray. What am I looking for here?
Lesson 2.
What am I looking for here? I'm looking for something. I'm looking for a different notebook. Not that one. I'm looking for SDTIG notebook. Lesson 2, Hack Design. Yes, got so many good notes. Okay, and okay, so all my announcements are useless because nobody's here to take them in.
What are the announcements?
Get out a company. Oh, someone just showed up in the front row. Ma'am. So I got a company that's hiring. I guess I'll just post this on the discussion group. A friend of mine reached out and said her company was hiring. And the other one was a email. You're all going to read my emails, which is awesome. The screenshot it, yeah. Full stack talks. Okay, so let's just see if I can Google this. So there's a meetup, or there's a user group here in Carlsbad called Full Stack Talks. That's over in Bressie Ranch, and I've been a handful of times. It's actually a pretty fun meetup in a really good space. And they just sent an announcement. Let me see if I can find this, maybe on the discussion group, that they're starting a new, it's not here. They're starting a new user group for designers, which I thought was relevant. It's not here. I don't know where it went. Let's see. Is it here?
Come learn, go. Sorry.
Nah, this is like, okay, I'll just go back to my email. See what it said. My email says, there's a new meetup in towns dedicated to designers. Design Nerds Dribble Meetup. Oh, it's on Dribble, not Meetup, that's why. Okay, so there's a thing called Design Nerds Dribble Meetup, and hey, come on in. We have one. You're a party of one today. Wow, yeah, we just started chatting. We're recording on YouTube now, so we're just gonna go, and if somebody shows up, somebody shows up. I guess I have to turn the TV on now. We have people. We have to pretend like we have. Let's see if that worked. Hello. So shockingly, this email went out like 2 weeks ago or something, and it looks like they already have 52 people RSVP'd. So they know how to do a meetup better than we do, apparently.
Hey there.
Hey, come on in. It's a very light crowd.
Yesterday.
You saw about this one?
No, the one.
Oh, ours. Yeah, we announced it a little bit late.
I don't know.
That's it. We're rolling. Yep.
Yes.
So anyways, Design Nerds Dribble Meetup. I thought it was kind of cool if you want to learn more about designers. This is focused for designers, but if you wanted to, snoop on the designer crowd, this is kind of cool. So it's at the same place they do the Full Stack Talks, Gateway Road. It's at the company called Planning Center. And they have a very nice office, great little like teaching area, room, conference room, communal space or whatever. So it's really nice place to do a meetup. And they usually do like a lightning talk. It looks like they're doing 2 lightning talks and a workshop open lab period for an hour. And they have beer on tap. So that's good.
Whoa.
At least they do one for the other meeting. Actually, they'll have it for this meeting too.
Well, that is nice. That is a big benefit.
Mm-hmm.
No wonder they have so many people.
Mm-hmm. So now we have 2 people. I can do the other announcement. If you know someone looking for a job or you're interested in a job, a friend of mine's company, Lease Labs, is hiring. I don't know much about the company. I just And the person I know is not a technical person there. She's a, I think she's a CFO or something. But they're hiring cloud engineers. And look how cool their office looks.
That's right.
Leaselabs.com on the careers page. Or send me an email or something. By the time you watch this on YouTube, that job may not be there. So sorry. All right. That was all the announcements I had. Any other announcements? Anything else? Anything else? No. Okay. So we'll just go over the reading that we did. We did, as Scott said, he was confused by my note. The idea was to do lessons 2 through 8, not just 2 and 8.
No, I didn't do 2 and 8. I
Yeah.
just didn't. I skipped over the new mobile web and know your tools.
Yeah. So those were not as related to typography, but it was part of the introduction block that we did not finish because when we did the first meeting, we really just did lesson 1. So we wanted to make sure we kind of caught up with where we were. So to typography and then mobile web and know your tools. And actually there was a handful of cool stuff in there. The mobile web had some good stuff actually. Some of the stuff was dated, but
A fair bit was stated.
but some of it was pretty good. I thought it was pretty good. And then the whole typography section, which that was dated. A lot of the some of those were from like 2005, but I still thought the information was relevant.
relevant.
Yeah, it was. It isn't an area that really is changing so much.
I concur.
And the lady in front, does she concur? Yes, I concur too. We were just going to do the whole thing in different voices, so it sounded like there was more people here. Okay, I just had some crazy notes. I don't know how you want to go down this. Oh, and then there were some cool games. I don't know if you guys did the games; those were pretty fun. The Kerning game and the Kerning game. Did you write your scores down for the Kerning game?
I didn't. The Kerning game was not that bad. Like it was like you could get pretty high scores, I found. But the other one was damn near impossible, I found. That B.
Are you in YouTube? We gotta watch the chat in case there is anybody in there.
Yeah, I'm on YouTube.
Okay.
Oh, share your screen.
It's shared.
No, it's not anymore.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah.
was shared.
It was shared.
Yeah. So I thought the Kern game was a good example of how detail oriented this really is. You know?
Yeah.
Like you're off by this tiny sliver, and that, you know, and having to move it just pixel by pixel. And I think that's kind of part of the design mentality is not just like, oh, okay, whatever, right? You're making an explicit decision. I want it this certain way, and I'm gonna work to get it exactly to that point.
Yeah, even in the last section, there was something where I thought that too. I thought, man, they are like. Actually, what I thought was, if you have like a real qualified designer working on a web product, and they sit down and do like the actual typography design that they list here, the cost of that project is going to go through the roof. Like, I thought nobody actually does this in practice, do they? Like, really, really useful. Like when he explained it all, he said, "Oh, that's very well done." That's why probably most web applications are poorly designed, because people don't actually sit down and do this work. But there were lots of little things. Like he made a mention. It was the this was like near the end. I'll probably get to, but the essential whatever of typography on the web. He made a mention of when you have a letter like a name that has 2 initials and then a last name, that like the dots should have the mini, the sliver space, the hairline space, and it's like, oh my god, no one does that. And then I clicked it, and he like did it on the website to show you. You use like a specific Unicode character for that or whatever. So. Anyways, I had my scores on the Kerning game. I had a 58 out of 100 on the first try, but I think it should have been more like 75 because I got like a 3 on the first one because I didn't understand what was going on. Because there was like 2 letters to move, and I only moved the first one.
Right,
and
thinking that's like
so I totally failed on the first one, but then every other one I thought I did decent.
But do the do the other one.
The shape game I was horrible. I got 44 out of 100 on that one, and then
worse. I think I was like 40. Yeah, maybe 40.
There was one other one. Did I not write down the score? The third one? Maybe I didn't write down the score for the
I don't
Was
remember
it just 2? Oh, maybe the shape game. Yeah, the shape game was the one where you had to like grab the handles and reshape the font.
Bring
Yeah.
up that shape game and do that beat. I dare ya.
Do that B.
Do the B.
All right. Well, I got to do them all to get through
Well,
it, right?
the first one's fairly easy, right? Like,
Yeah. Well, I
Tells
don't.
you where to put that one.
yeah, just drag it to the thing.
Oh wait.
See?
Purple.
That's the problem I had. But then for some reason the touch worked.
Oh, I didn't have this problem with like a real mouse.
Oh,
Oh, well, that's
Interesting.
that's annoying.
maybe that's why your score was so low.
It could have been. I don't know. Okay, never mind. Greg, pull that up and do the.
Well, here, hang on. You said touch works, right? So I'll just pretend like I'm doing touch.
That's clever.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Okay.
Oh, that one's not bad. That one's easy. Yeah.
Okay, I don't actually care about these ones
Right,
so
yeah,
much,
just-
but whatever. Whatever. Compare. All right. Well, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now this one, I think. Yes.
Yeah, to flatten this.
Dude.
What I found
I'm
is you pull
sitting there
straight
going,
up, right? I found you, and what I found is that you pull the handles to meet with like the descender right there, that or the
Mhm.
you know, the mark they're making right there, right? So then this one
And you.
to shape the font, like you're trying to look at like, see, this one's two-handled, which is really tricky. You're trying to make the font look like it should look in the
So
typeface.
that beat is not looking
That's
like it
not
should
right.
be.
The top's too high.
No, the top's too high.
It's because you have to look at the counter, also the inside space, and see what that's.
Yeah, see, that's too fat. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
gonna be too fat in
Anyway,
here.
But did
This
you do the
one-
one after this?
This one, yeah.
The
This
crazy
one I
script
struggled
E?
and struggled and got something like a
Yeah,
27.
this one was
and then
nuts.
this one I was like, oh Jesus. I think I gave up on this one.
What is that?
That's an
a
E.
very-
It's a script E.
Edwardian script E.
Yeah.
You know, that's not even really. I mean, maybe
Well-
you could argue that's a serif, but that's not even. That's just a script font. That's just a handwritten font.
That's
Yeah.
even worse.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah.
so apparently that didn't work in some mice, which is funny. So I'll just go down my notes and we just do whatever. I just did some definitions from the beginning, the typography, the essentials. I think this is the one that had it. Yeah, I thought this was
So
really
we're just
useful.
gonna go through lesson by lesson. If you guys read stuff and had thoughts, or you want to just respond to ideas brought up, whatever.
Yeah.
Very casual.
So I thought this was really useful. I'm like a big proponent of getting vocabulary right, especially in a topic I know nothing about, so I can speak somewhat intelligently. So some of these I knew, some of them I didn't know the right word for. Like I knew ascender and descender. I didn't know counter, and I didn't know it was called X height specifically or cap height. So I kind of put those down.
Well, cap height's the capital height.
Yeah. Okay. The
Plus
descender
the
is
descender.
yeah.
It's the overall total.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
according to that, the type size
Is-
also called the cap height.
Yeah, type size also called cap height. So, but if there was not a capital letter here, the cap height would have been the Y to the descender, right? Like it would have been X height, and then baseline being the bottom where the letter or the descenders rest on.
Yeah, I would have thought the baseline would be the dotted line that the H and
Right. So
A
that's
and
like
R.
X height, right? So the base. So again,
No,
it's
I'm talking about the line. What's the dotted line that is?
you can give a name for that. It's just the space in between the two lines is the X height.
I've always called that the baseline.
Incorrectly, which is why I'm good on the vocab, right? Like you're talking with someone who actually knows it. And then kerning and leading, I knew like kerning, you played the game,
Leading.
space in between, leading, sorry. So I knew it, but I didn't know how to pronounce it apparently. And then space between lines of text.
So the reason it's called leading is because when they were actually printing with metal type, they put a strip of lead in between to make the blank space.
Well, the movable type was lead too,
Right.
so they could cast more in a hurry.
So that's where leading comes from. And kern, I mean, it's really interesting. So much of this is just built off of these original physical things. But kern is the name for so in order to get two slugs of type to, if it was like a W and something, and then it was making this big gap, you'd cut out the slug so that this piece stuck past the block, right? So it's like sticking, and the thing that sticks off is called a kern. And so that allowed you stick these two blocks,
Squeeze them
sort of
together.
overlap them. So all this stuff comes from, when people,
Printing.
Yeah. And they even say like in the later on, he talks about like the foundations of printing are back to the 1600s and they're still relevant today. And he said most of what we do on screen is still, you still follow the ratios of the printing presses and the things that they did then, or the, the movable type print that they did then. And it just worked. Like, to some extent it's mathematical equation of ratios that just work. So serif, sans serif, I think everybody mostly knew those, should probably knew those, and script symbols. That's pretty much it. So a couple of vocab there I thought was good.
Another fun thing about uppercase and lowercase letters, the reason the capitals are called uppercase letters is because at the print shop they had these drawers in a case, and the top case was where the big letters were, and the
There you go.
case below it was where the small letters were.
Makes sense. Oh, and then
Yeah.
this was great. This was like the day after I read this serif, sans serif page. One of my friends on Instagram posted this, and I thought it was hilarious. I hope it's still here. Yeah. I'm not much of a fan of a sports fan, but it does warm my heart to see that the serif C's lost by 1 goal to the sans serif C's. Yay for modern typefaces. That was hysterical. The Indians and the Cubs. So they are now the serif C's and the sans serif C's, which is pretty great. I have dorky friends on Instagram, just FYI, in case you didn't know that. Okay, and then a couple quotes I pulled out of there. Use care when mixing fonts. It's kind of like mixing stripes and plaids. When in doubt, stay with something a little more conservative and add 1 splash of notice me. And then it said use an 11 or 12 point font size and a serif type for maximum readability. So
For print. Yeah, not for web.
So, yeah, I thought those were good. A lot of these quotes I'm pulling, I'm like trying to get, because there's no way I'm going to learn all of the ins and outs of this. But when I need to make, I think Chris Lucian had asked, like, what's a good like baseline toolkit to have? Like, I'm going to do some design. What are the basic guidelines I follow that will just make it look right without, being a mess? So I think knowing some of those is pretty good. And then there was a mention of typecast. There was a mention of typecast. I'm not even going to show typecast because it's so broken for me, and I was less impressed than I thought it was. But typecast was that online tool that was free to sign up and kind of build fonts from. But it had too many bugs. Like once you actually got in and worked on it, it was fine. But getting into the app and creating the project and everything was just too buggy. And then watch the Helvetica movie. This was hard to find. Like I had already seen it.
Skipped over Better Web.
No, I think I have a few things there.
Oh.
I think that was Typecast. Yeah, that's where Typecast was from.
Okay.
I don't think I really had anything
like
else.
that.
Google Fonts or
I
something.
had
There were-
something there. The 1 and 2. This is from one of the designers that I respect the most, which is Greg. In our Auction Zen stuff that we did way back in when we were first doing it, like 2012, 2013, something like that, we had chosen a font which was non-Unicode, and then we had so many French letters that like Heloise with the accent aigu and all the various accents on the French language, they all looked like non-bold. Like the titles of the things were all nice and big and bold, except for those letters, which were like slightly. And I realized that we could have done that with subsetting of a font that was very similar. That did support Unicode.
Yeah, that is true. This is except this site was down, right? So that was kind of a bummer. Like I thought that was kind of cool because they had the fallback thing, but that site doesn't work. So I don't know how, whatever. And don't fake styles. Yeah, I think that was good. Oh, I guess it was for know your HTML entities to like actually create quotes and single quotes and double quotes and stuff, apostrophes. That was good. And use quoting correctly, and then know what your dashes are. That's pretty good. Take control line breaks, space with care. Yeah.
The one I thought was funny was there's one about using don't use pixel sizing for define, is that the one? Which is written with pixel sizing.
Oh, really?
It won't respond to
If
changing
text is
the-
defined in
So
pixels.
if you control plus. what
Well,
is it?
Control Plus is a zoom. It's if you go settings font size.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, is that what happens?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is that, view?
I usually use the sideways dotty hamburger.
Sideways
What do you even call
dotty
it?
hamburger.
I don't know what to call it either. It used to be a hamburger and now it's
Yeah.
dots. I don't know, like, I understand the way they
Sideways
came up with
dotty.
that,
It's
but
advanced.
the triple colon.
Right. So you, right. So if you do that and then go back,
It just doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
But it does
those
there.
do, right. So
Oh, that's funny.
that was kind of funny that was their advice.
Yeah, that's funny. Okay.
And for the characters, like the quote characters,
mhm.
There are shortcuts like on the Mac. Option Alt bracket gives you
A real quote
a
character
real quote.
in
Alt
the,
Shift bracket in both directions, single and.
but it won't type out the Unicode sequence, will it? It'll actually put a real character. Like, so if you're typing copy into a web page, will you just do that? Oh, like the real correct quote, or you put the Unicode character? I guess, are those
that should
equivalent?
Just be equivalent. But it's a good question. I'll try it.
It's funny that in most of the web copy that I write, which is for a blog, you're trying to go the other way. Like you want to make sure that those quote characters are not that, but instead it's just straight. Yeah, yeah. Because if someone copies and pastes, you want it to let.
Well, and so what he's saying here is don't do that either. Use like the standard Unicode characters. Like,
Depends on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Paste into a command line, it had better be the.
oh,
Straight.
yeah, yes, that's true. If you're putting code samples, for sure. Yeah,
that's what I'm
code
saying.
samples
It's
you
like,
want
it bothers
actual.
me all the time. You know, like people
Yes.
have when they do it on when they type it in PowerPoint and you copy it from PowerPoint and paste it, and it's like, oh, you bastard!
Mhm.
Go through,
Yeah.
search, replace
That's true.
all these quotes with that quote, all these quotes.
It's especially nice when you're doing a regex to like strip triple quotes to double quotes to single. It's like, oh god, how many different quotes are in there? Okay. Yeah. So better web typography, shape game score did quite bad. Oh, the responsive web section. There was a thing about media queries, which at this point, like I think everybody knows about. I thought this was pretty good. This was a code pen by Brad Frost and just had like a whole bunch of things. Like if you were like, oh, I want to do like 3-column equal width, and it's just like you can get the code, which is pretty nice since it's just code pen or whatever. So so that was pretty handy. Yeah, I mean, so like I got pretty anti-Bootstrap at this point because everybody uses it, and I actually never really the real answer is I never really learned Bootstrap enough to be comfortable with it and thought that it's just a giant crutch or whatever. So I've kind of given up on Bootstrap. But so this is nice. I prefer to have full control over it, even if a lot of this is just doing what Bootstrap does or a simplified version of Bootstrap. You have more control over it. Like I felt like Bootstrap, you opted into way more than you needed.
My experience with Bootstrap was it was a way to get responsiveness kind of baked in for you, and yet it never did it the way I wanted it. And then trying to get it to do it the way I wanted it to was difficult.
I look at Bootstrap differently. I look at it as a rapid prototyping tool.
Yeah, that's probably.
But it never gets deleted is the problem. Right?
Yeah, I know.
That's why every site has
That's what
Bootstrap in
should
it.
be,
So it
right?
goes
Like,
into production as a prototype.
yeah,
Like
Yep.
every piece of code.
yeah, exactly. That's what happens. But I'm just saying, like, if you look at it from that perspective,
Are those
Like-
comments on YouTube that I see there behind you?
No.
No, I thought this little speck of comment. But yeah, I agree. Rapid prototyping just should go away, but doesn't. Yeah, so Helvetica is a good documentary. I'd already seen this, but I bet probably nobody did find this because I noticed that it was not on any of these sources
It's on
anymore.
their website.
It was just on their website for $6.
Going back to the Bootstrap, though,
Yeah.
Assuming you have the SAS or the less, right? What you want, what you told me a long time ago, when you're trying to make a good responsive, you want to delete all responsivity and then shrink it
Mm.
until it starts looking bad, and you want to say, that's my first cutoff, right? That's where I need to change it.
Your
so
break
that
point.
yeah. And then, from there, you want to go down, oh, it looks bad now here, and so I have to change again, right? So using that approach, you can do that in Bootstrap using lesser Sass. There's a variable that is their cutoff points, and you just set that right to the right value. Just throwing that out.
Cool.
Maybe it'll help somebody.
Okay, so the next section I had was the amazing mobile web stuff.
Oh wait, the
Yeah,
movie.
Helvetica. Yeah. Oh, you got
I
nose.
loved it. I haven't seen it
Had you not
before.
seen it?
No.
Okay. Yeah, it's great. It's
There's
great.
some really
So
great quotes in there.
it was really great to kind of play on that same like how in depth and crazy it is to be a font designer. Like the angry German guy's like my favorite. He's like so pissed at bad fonts. He gets like so angry about like people who don't take the time to just do the font correctly. And yeah. Anyway, if you have quotes, it'd be good.
Swiss or Swedish?
Was he Swiss? I thought he was German. Anyways.
Yeah, I mean, there were lots of things that I liked in it. Some of the notes I took, they said, asking what you think about Helvetica is like being asked what you think about off-white paint.
Yeah.
I think it's funny.
Yeah, it is everywhere.
That was probably one of the most, when I first watched it, one of the most like eye-opening things. It's like when you first see the XKCD comic about kerning and you learn about kerning for the first time, and then the little hover's like, I'm sorry, now you're gonna be angry every time you see bad kerning.
Yeah.
Once you watch Helvetica, you're just angry when someone doesn't have a street sign in Helvetica, and you're like, what kind of idiot thought they'd get cute with the street sign? Now I don't know where I'm going. You know? And then you realize how many things are just Helvetica. Like if you order a business sign to go on the front of your business and you don't tell them, it just comes in Helvetica, right? They just don't mess around. They're like, whatever, here you go.
I liked how that movie used the switches between scenes. They were just like Helvetica.
Oh, yeah.
Helvetica. It's like 30 examples. Okay, now we're at the next scene.
Right.
This is how prevalent it is.
It is pervasive. I like Massimo Vignelli. He said, "The life of a designer is a fight against the ugliness." That's kind of interesting way to look at it. And when he was talking about the American Airlines logo, and I just love this. The novelty, what they did that had never been done before, was they put the two words right next to each other with no space. No one had ever thought of that before. Like, but I mean, you look at some of these things, and like there really were these times where someone, and those times still exist. Like there's still plenty of things for us to do where in the future they'll be like, well, of course you would have, I don't know, overlapped those words or whatever, but no one had ever done it before. I thought that was funny.
Here comes our surfers.
Surfers are back. I think it was, I liked the advice to like get to know 3 typefaces really well. Just like, don't feel like you have to get on Typekit and you've got a million fonts to choose from. Just like.
But how do you choose those 3? That's really the question. You want us, serif, us, and serif, and then a script.
Well, you're looking at what's out there, and you're seeing what you like, and it becomes part of like your personal. What do you enjoy looking at, and what you try it, and then you say, well, those have problems. It doesn't quite work at these sizes. And, but I thought that was a good concept to like think about. Just getting really good at, because especially if a typeface has many weights, you really can do all the design in a single font.
Yeah.
There's so many possibilities with contrast with the various weights alone.
These italics, reverse italics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you don't need the 1,000,001 decorative scripty fonts to do something interesting.
You don't need Comic Sans.
There's one other thing that was mentioned here, which I think you've mentioned in the past as well, Greg, but all these like Google fonts and Typekit and blah, 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 blah. You can use that for printed design, but not web design, or what's the deal there in terms of the licensing?
Yes, some. I mean,
Google fonts are open. You can use for whatever, right? They're all just.
Is it true?
Yeah,
I think
they're just
that's
free.
true.
Yeah, I think they're just free.
Well,
Google Fonts you host.
Yeah.
Google Fonts you serve the font file to the
Okay, so-
browser.
Yeah.
When
Mhm.
they hit a font they don't have, they actually
Did-
download it. from-
They always download it. If you use a font, a Google font that's you serve the TTF or the OTF or whatever to them,
Yeah.
and they
That's embedded in your CSS. But,
Yeah.
Okay, so it slows down the initial site load.
yes.
nah, barely. I mean, it's all web packed and compressed, and they're not that big. So
So how fast your site is.
yeah, I mean, if your target audience is like a dude on a 56K modem, then yeah, you're gonna like have a text only. You're not gonna give them JPEGs either. But if you're serving a banner image, yeah, you're on LTE. Come on, dude. Like, yeah, that connection's faster than most people's house connection. Like, if you're that concerned about not downloading a TTF font, then you're not even gonna put a single image on your whole web page. And there is no web pages left where they're like, we need to remove this one
I've
GIF.
seen those. I've seen
Right.
those.
Okay. Sure. The negative
Recently-
1%. That's fine. That's fine. I'm trying to find where it's. Oh yeah, the open source font catalogs are published under licenses that allow you to use them on any website, whether it's commercial or personal. I guess it doesn't say whether you can use them in print, but
Well, I mean, I think it's sort of, if you can use it on a web, it's more restrictive on the web than it is in print. I don't know why, but that's all the licenses I've seen have gone
yeah.
more restrictive
Mhm.
for digital.
Welcome. Come on in.
And what about,
Steal a chair from somewhere, or from the conference room or something.
Okay, so then what about, that's Google Fonts. There were 3 or 4 that were mentioned in that.
Yeah.
I mean, like if you look at Typekit or the Type Foundries, then you start to get into, as far as free, you don't get necessarily these for free. And
Is this the one? I don't remember where the other ones were.
one of the challenges I ran into with the project was I found a font I really liked, and one of the weights was desktop, and one of the weights was web. And so there aren't really great tools for bridging that gap, other than actually.
One of the weights was desktop, meaning they didn't have it in a file that you could serve on the web. Is that what you mean?
they didn't have,
They didn't-
top.
What I wanted was the other weight, which was web only. I wanted it in a desktop.
Why? Oh, because in the web version you can't install a WAF into your font cache on your OS.
I mean, like the tools I use, Photoshop, Illustrator,
They won't do it.
can't.
TTF.
Adobe does have another tool called Muse, which is like their web design tool that lets you bring in the web fonts, but not the desktop fonts. So you're like, there's this no man's land, which is a little bit of a challenge. You can purchase it from the Type Foundry for $40, which one of the ones I used, I purchased because I wanted it.
Mhm.
But so that's a little bit of like, they still haven't quite.
But I think like if you watch Helvetica, you have more respect for paying a guy for making a
Oh,
font
yeah.
because you
It
realize
takes
like
an enormous
I saw the note you had down there. Like I started with 1 letter a day or whatever, like building my font like one.
Yeah, Matthew Carter, he
Yeah.
started by making type by hand. And he said he
1
could
letter a
make-
day.
Yeah, probably less.
I mean, we
than
did the
1
shape
letter a
game,
day.
right? That was just trying to drag on an existing font to try to drag the curves.
Well,
to
this
look
was
correct.
metal. Because we're going to make it metal. But still, to think like a single, like the letter S, it took me over a day just to make one S.
The lowercase s.
The lowercase s, and you need to make a bunch of them so that you can, write whole pages.
12, 14, I mean, like different sizes, right? Or
No, even of one size.
Yeah, I know.
So that you can, if you're gonna,
physically.
yeah, the physical metal
Mm.
slug, you're gonna have to make a whole bunch so that you can lay out an actual bunch of sentences at once that have a bunch of S's in them.
Do Z and X last. That's my advice.
But if you do Q, you got to do U. So
Oh, good point.
You gotta do you anyway.
Yes, yeah.
Another thing I liked in this, and I've heard this a lot in reading, but which is after World War II, you had these designers who they felt like they needed to rebuild things, and they needed, like, they had this social responsibility, and that's what drove the creation of these new typefaces. And as I've read about in history, there's this, it's not always like a design, it's like a cultural motivator behind how they choose, how a type is created, why a type is created. It exists, and like the Swiss style grid stuff, they were trying to bring order to the world, right? And so it comes out in design, but that their thinking was the world's a mess. The world needs order, and we're gonna kind of mirror our feelings about the world, like how to improve the world through our design.
I mean, yeah, they touch on that later, which is really interesting. They talk about some of the stuff that I think if you've done photography or architecture or type design, you've seen the golden ratio, golden rule, and like the ratios of layouts and how it reflects itself in nature and the mathematical grid. And then like you start to see people like, we just started building buildings, and it just made sense that the ratios make sense. And then somebody's going to copy, right? Go, oh, that building's cool. Okay, well, I'll just build. And then all of a sudden you have a whole community full of things that are roughly following the standard. All the signs are printed in Helvetica because that's what the first sign was printed in. And it all fit in a grid because like the tools that they made to carve out the first thing were sized to fit the first thing. And so I'm not going to remake a tool to do some funky angle. Like I'm just cutting it in this angle, like there's even like furniture design, so much building of everything is just like, well, we made a machine that builds them like this. So you just get it like this or you don't get it at all. So don't reinvent the wheel. Hold the order.
Mm-hmm. And then just a couple other quotes that I liked from the movie. Speakerman, he said, I'm always on time, but a year late. I thought that was just funny. He's there exactly to the second, but just a year off.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I thought was so great was the designer who was tasked to do the type layout for this terrible Brian Ferry article. And so he did the whole thing in Dingbat. It's like magazine. With his whole article printed in Dingbat. Unreadable. But he said the English itself was unreadable. So this was
that seems fine.
So it didn't make it any worse.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
That seems fun.
That was fun. All right, we can move on.
Cool. All right, new mobile web. So we diverged a little from typography on here, so we'll move a little bit quickly through here. But there were a couple things that I thought were good. There was a quote in here about this not being your parents' phone, which I thought was funny. They're talking about like mobile web design. And I'm like, wait, my parents didn't have a cell phone. How young is your audience? Okay, so the CodePen link I liked. Mobile constraints. So this is where some of it was dated, I thought. Like they're repeating stuff that we already know about form factor of the mobile. You've got a smaller screen. You've got to scale everything. And then they talked about input state, and you have no mouse, so you have no hover state. That's something that I think everybody already knows, but hardly anybody designs for that. Even now, when people say do mobile, I'm working on a project now which is primarily voice activated. They keep saying we want voice to be the primary way, and every design is, here's how you'd click it with a mouse. And I'm like, well, there's not even a mouse plugged into the stupid thing. Like the designer cannot remove themselves from like, well, this is the mouse gesture. And I said, well, 2 seconds ago, you told me everything needs to be voice command controlled. So why do we even have that thing? Like, you don't need an X button when I just have to say close, and so it's still to this day a challenge. And they did mention, I thought I had it here. They did mention a book that I like that I have, and I cannot find it. Hang on. It was about gestural input, designing gestural interfaces, I think is what it was called. I'm noticing this a lot more too, just randomly. A common like legend for gestures, like this is being, something very close to this is being used everywhere, where the fingers have little hit points under them to show. And they all look very similar, but like when you're looking at a design that has, like if you're looking at a design comp for an app that's going to be on mobile, you really need to think about putting this type of legend in there, so I know what you mean by the gesture, because it's not at all obvious. Let me see if it's at the bottom here. There was a link to other, let's just see.
Well, while you're searching, I thought the big interesting takeaway from that one was there's actually this quote: the end result is an experience focused on the key tasks the users want to accomplish without the extraneous detours and general interface debris that litter today's desktop accessed websites. So this is about mobile, right? So one of the key elements with mobile is not just how to make things smaller, but how do you just get rid of everything that is not the primary path?
Dump the ads.
Right. Yeah. Is not the main key points that this user wants to do. In the context, he also says, hang out where your target audience hangs out, determine the context in which they're using the application.
I like that a lot.
Really know what that's like and make sure that what's built into this mobile version is just what they need to accomplish their goals and not all this extra debris. I like that. Interface debris.
Yeah. So this is the book I was thinking of calling Designing Gestural Interfaces. I don't know if he's updated this. It's a little bit old. But when this came out, it was kind of Dan Safer's like attempt at standardizing the industry, because this was like around the time when like iPhone was out, the Wii had just come out, like, you know, with the little Wiimote, and it was like a whole like, what the hell is this? How do you build an interface? And then the Microsoft Surface Table thing was out, and it was like, oh, there's all these devices with touch, and nobody knows like what a flick gesture should do, like how many novel gestures are there. And so he was trying to standardize them and then try to like say, these are the scenarios in which you build an interface that might need the following gesture. So I thought that was pretty good. But you reminded me on the one thing you just said about know your audience. I think I put that down here. It said, I don't know why I can't find my notes, but anyway, they said, you know, you might be walking on your phone, or you might be in a car. Or you might be, you know, outdoors, you might be indoors, it might be high contrast, low contrast. And the thing that I've been using lately that I really like is Android Auto. You can like install it, and it syncs up to Bluetooth. So as soon as it detects, like it's linked to my car, as soon as it detects that it's on my car, it like switches to this interface. And so it's like huge, and like there's only 4 buttons and you can't do anything. And so like, you're not supposed to use your phone when you're driving. I get it, whatever. But if you glance over, like you can play, pause, like it also does a lot of voice, like the voice command button is up high, and it's just like you hit that and you just start talking on your phone. Or if a text message comes in, it reads it to you, and then you can speak back to it and stuff. So they really did a good job of like understanding that modality. And like, even so much as I've been in the passenger seat while my wife's driving my car, and it turns on Android Auto, and I start scrolling, and it pauses scrolling, and it's like, scrolling has been paused for safety. Like it won't let me scroll because like it thinks I'm driving. So I thought that was a pretty good example of knowing your audience and knowing like where they're going to be using the device. Well, you can just hit exit. You can just exit out of it. It's just an app that takes over your screen. So. Okay, there's other technical constraints. Also, I very rarely ever see these considered when designing for mobile: power consumption, battery life consumption, high fidelity video playback versus like, you know, GPU limitations, and data transfer, which I apparently typoed wrong. I have a PBS Kids app on my phone that I use to play videos for the kid when we're out to dinner and she's being insane or whatever. And there is no setting in there to say low quality video, and it like chews through data on my phone. And I'm like, so much that I've sent support to like PBS Kids and like, dude, can you just put a button that says give me a low quality stream? Like, I don't need to see Daniel Tiger in like full 1080p. Yeah, like I don't even put the sound on. It's muted. Like she doesn't even care what it looks like, you know? And so, but it's just burning through data, and that's just irresponsible design, I think. So, and then there was a mention, and this I thought was dated. I said, Greg question mark said mobile first. Is that still the right thing to do? Like I've heard debates back and forth. Like if you are going to support mobile web, like do you just do mobile first? I've heard people argue both ways.
So my experience, okay, so I build a lot of web applications, and those tend, with maybe a mobile-first website, those tend to be more similar, perhaps. Whereas a mobile application versus a desktop application, browser application, tends to have sort of a different target usage. But I do think, for what we were just talking about before, starting mobile first helps you focus in on what are like the key things. But at the same time, it doesn't make sense for a user necessarily sitting at a desk. They're in a different context. They're trying to accomplish different tasks. So for web sites, I think it makes a lot of sense. For web applications, I think it makes less sense.
So the web application argument is more know your target audience. Like, so Instagram's
Design
like,
it twice.
well,
Well,
yeah.
Just, I mean, they're potentially different scenarios or different.
I mean, Instagram's a great use case, right? Like they still don't really have a web app and didn't have a web app for years. It was like 3 years, and Instagram was gigantic, and they were just like, yeah, I guess we can put it on the web, but no one uses it on the web because you're not going to take a picture with your webcam. Like, they knew that it made no sense, but it was really just an app. So they have like a little website to browse photos now, but it really otherwise is not, it doesn't make sense as even as a website. So I guess if you know your target market and say, well, this is a mobile optimized web application, well, you may not even need a desktop app. Like, you may be able to just do everything in the mobile and be good. Okay, cool. Provide immediate feedback was a good one on the mobile. I see that a lot where like the developers are just okay with you tap that and then like it's gonna load and it's gonna take a while, and like you just don't want people tapping like crazy. That drives me nuts. And it's just like, just provide a flash, something instantaneous that they know that you got the click. Like, I got it, I'm working on it. Spinner, I guess I've been conditioned to not think of, like, to think that the spinner means it's broken. So yeah, here it is. Determine your primary contacts at home, on the go, on public transit, on busy streets, in the car. So I said Android Auto is a good example. Busy streets, in the car, or in the gym, I thought were interesting ones because like I'm walking on the sidewalk in Manhattan and you want to do voice control, like forget it. Forget it. Like, that's terrible. You don't know your audience.
That's probably what someone's going to say. Forget it.
Yeah.
Forget about it.
Okay, so as a complete tangent, I'm going to share one thing that I was going to share at Arch Say for Show Me Something Cool, but I've been waiting to share this. And so it works with my, oh wait, it's not here. It works with my walking on the street in New York, and I think it's fantastic. So this is how many Show Me Something Cools I have. It's this far back. Where did you go? Oh yes. Oh yes, this is glorious. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. Please tell me the video is here. Let's see the demo. Oh, come on. Come on. Give me the demo. Oops. I don't know if this is coming over Hangouts. Sorry, Hangouts. This is so great.
Have you ever felt uncomfortable when speaking over the phone in public places or open space? Introducing HushMe, the world's first mask for mobile phones.
What? Wait for it.
HushMe is a personal acoustic device that
It's a personal
protects
acoustic
speech
device.
privacy in open space environments by using exclusive passive voice suppression and active voice masking technology. A stylish, ergonomic design won't turn weird.
I think it's real.
Look how happy he is. Not embarrassed.
It's like a Bane mask.
HushMe, keep talking.
Oh my god, it's so good. I think it's real. Like, it's, yeah, it's like a Bane mask. You just wear it over your face and you can do it. And look how casual it looks. I mean, you know. If somebody sitting next to me at the coffee shop put that on, I would just laugh.
I don't believe that
hysterically.
you can't hear them anymore.
It's a personal acoustic device. A personal acoustic device protects your speech from open.
Yeah. It's like voice canceling headphones, but in reverse.
But you're
Active
like,
voice suppression. Active voice,
don't you still
adjustable
make
voice
some
masking.
sound
I think
when
it can change your voice so you can go like R2D2 or whatever. Like you can go Darth Vader. Yeah. I think it's real, man. I think it's real. So there you go. Know your audience. Okay. So I think that's kind of for mobile web. That's kind of responsive web. So the next one is know your tools.
Yeah, my problem with this one was there was no like getting started.
Yeah.
It was all like, advanced tricks and tips.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was not a Photoshop overview for sure. There was not a Photoshop overview. So, but there was a couple things. If you had done any Photoshop, that was interesting. The whole color management settings were cool. I didn't really know too much about that. Oh, this was kind of cool on responsive web. the Clear Left Test Lab. Did you read this? Like, it's this company in the East Coast, Maine or something, or Rhode Island, and they just like were building up a mobile test lab with all these devices, and then they just open it up like as a library, and you can just stop in, and they're like have them all set up, and you can just come, and people are like donating phones. So that's cool. Like Sauce Labs and Xamarin Test Cloud. There's a couple other online things where you can do that, but this lets you actually like pick up the physical device and use it, and people are donating like all of these devices. It's kind of cool if you're a company with those resources to set up a little test lab and then open it up to the public and let them come in and mess around on the devices to test, because they're basically saying we want a better mobile experience for everybody. So yeah, so this stuff, Know Your Tools, there was not a whole lot. I thought the Retina web stuff was very good. Just finding what a pixel was and what screen density was and what a CSS pixel was, because it's always like, what is 1 here? Like when I say margin 1, what is that? Like, and then this image I thought was really good. Like understanding pixels versus Retina pixels and how it, like if you don't provide a scaled image for Retina, what it will do, it will just like subdivide the pixels, and like this is why your images will look like crap. And so yeah, I thought that was pretty good. On standard density displays, a CSS pixel is equal to a device pixel. On a Retina display or double density, 1 CSS pixel is equal to 2 device pixels. And you can actually get, in CSS, you can get the screen density, right? So there's some Android phones that are like 1.7 density. They're not quite Retina, but they're not 1 pixel. They're like a weird density. And there's other devices coming out like, I guess 4K monitors are still single pixel density though, right? They're just huge resolution.
Yes.
But I know there are phones and tablets that have weird screen densities on them. And then it said that the browser squeezes or stretches at rendering time based on the CSS width and height, and bitmap pixels can't be further divided. They're the smallest display unit, so on Retina displays they just get multiplied. So that's where you get like raster effects, where you get like blurry images, whether they're taking 1 blue pixel and turning it into 4 blue pixels, and maybe it shouldn't have been 4 blue pixels depending on the image, and so you just get blurry images if you don't provide Retina. I don't see this very often, actually. I don't see people providing like Retina images in their websites very often. He kind of had the trick of like, putting the @2x or whatever on the image set, and a couple different.
Submitting an app to some store. I think it may have been Apple's, may have been iOS, and having to provide all of those different ones. And
Microsoft. It was the Windows Store. So a lot of them, yeah, the Windows Store, they didn't do a lot of scaling for you. You had to do it manually. The iPhone Store requires it, but they take your image and manipulate it and try to do the best they can. But just on the web though, like if I go in Retina mode and visit web pages, like I can see where they're not providing Retina images, like if it's image heavy. And he talked about a couple of ways to do it, and one of them, and you can kind of see why, one of them is the CSS image set property is still not supported in Firefox or Edge. So it's like, I don't think people are really using it because, yeah, you're losing like a chunk of the market there.
So you can use media queries based on the
pixel density and serve a different image. Yeah, and then there's this whole thing about like you could serve it and then swap it, but then it flashes like, if you're swapping at the last possible moment, or, you could rewrite the URL so it only fetches the correct one. It doesn't fetch the wrong one and then fetch the correct one or whatever. So a bunch of different ways to do it, but I don't know.
I don't think it's solved yet.
I don't think it's solved either. And I guess it's because like there hasn't been a huge uptick of Retina displays beyond the MacBooks. Like major laptop manufacturers aren't doing double density screens, outside of Apple.
Well, it's more than that too.
Can you kick the air on a little bit?
It's that as people are supporting these Retina displays on a desktop, now these giant pictures are being sent to a mobile device, and so the question is how do we make sure both?
But isn't the iPhone double density screen too? The new iPhones are Retinas, aren't they? They're 2 pixel density screens. The iPads are, at least, I think. The newer iPads are Retinas too. So you still have like,
but you don't need something that has the resolution.
Sure. You could have a scaled down copy of the image or whatever.
Which I guess is already.
Yeah, that's already an issue, right? Like even if you just go, again, you care about data transfer in the sense that like to get your point across, you want a nice high fidelity image, but you don't you don't. There are ways to make it look the same and not take up as much
Right.
space, right? There's compression techniques to do that. So there's one, not even really related to this too much, but like I've been listening to a bunch of podcasts, and I noticed that some podcast files are humongous and some are really small. I'm like, what the heck? I did some research, and they're like, just do it in like mono audio, and you cut the size of your file by like 3/4, and nobody notices the difference because they're just listening on their crappy headphones on their iPhone, or they're listening in their car or whatever, and it's just a human spoken voice. It's totally fine. And so like same kind of idea, like you can see the people who just like take the image right out of Photoshop and just go, yep, that looks good, plop it on their website, and you're like, that's a 2 megabyte JPEG I just downloaded. That seems ridiculous.
Chop it off at like 8 kilohertz.
Yeah, no one's gonna know the difference. Yeah, you can make it a really small file. So.
Even the voice to text or voice identification codes do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then he talks about, so you can do SVG, scalable vector, so you don't have to do all this bitmap messing with it. And Modernizer has a fallback solution for older IE that doesn't have SVG support. Anyway, so I thought that was all good. And then I have a thing that was helping, this one down here I thought was good, how designers can help developers. And then there was, that guy posted an inverse of how developers can help designers, which I thought was pretty good, but it was clearly written by a designer. Because like this one, like how designers can help developers was pretty good. There was stuff that said, you know, you designers, you need to clean up your Photoshop files, like treat them as source code, like organize your layers, name them, put them in subfolders. Don't leave a bunch of temp layers, things that are turned off, like give a reason why they're turned off. Use version control. Don't flatten layers. That's the thing that drives me nuts. I've gotten Photoshop files that are just flattened, and I'm like, I can't do anything with this. Can you give me the unflattened? Because I have to cut every single thing out. Flattening basically in Photoshop is just you have a whole bunch of layers and graphics you move around, and then you just flatten them into one raster. And then so they're like, oh, I just want to isolate that one piece from the Photoshop file, but you just flattened it away, and that pisses me off. So give them meaningful names. And then so the other way around he had was how developers can help designers. And it was basically
another thing with designers helping developers that I liked was include like extreme examples, like with names. And we've run into this a lot where in the design, the name is Joe Smith. But when you actually put it into production, it's Romero de los Santos. You know, it's like 8 times as long as the original name, and it breaks the design. You know? So I think it makes sense to put in various.
Yeah. Here's what you do when the content overflows. Snap to whole pixels is a good one too. Drives me nuts when the design is like not snap to whole pixels, because then inevitably you're like, oh, I'll just tweak it to be a whole pixel, and then everything shifts just a little bit, and one little bit will be wrong. You know, shit. That will be at 82.674 pixels. Thank you very much. Careful with fonts, RGB. Yeah, I think that was all good. And then this is the other one. And this one to me came off as like, just don't be so whiny. Know what you want. Examples are helpful. Trust your designer.
Oh, interesting.
A sketch goes a long way. Consider simple data. Present all the work up front. Remember your design constraints. Be responsive. Don't assume it's easy. Don't micromanage me. So for the most part, it was just like a guy that was pissed off about like, you know, pay on time. Yeah. Oh, this one was very interesting to me, actually. His opinion was source code is extra. So if you're a contracting designer, if you want the PSDs, that's extra. And I didn't agree with that, because as a developer, source code is what I do. Like, you pay for me to do something, you get the source code. But his opinion was you will get rasterized versions of the design. So I can, like, if I'm saying, can you design me a logo? Here's the logo. But he wouldn't give me the tools to tweak the logo because he wants you to come back. And I don't know. I didn't like it, but that's just not what we do as developers. I don't think, like, a developer that says source code is extra just not get hired. Like,
That varies by the design.
yeah, I've definitely worked with designers that give me, you know, the EPS files or whatever, or the PSD files or the AI files, but he seemed to say don't do that. So anyway,
It's just because they can get away with it.
maybe he can. I mean, like,
No, that's what I'm saying.
but you know who does do it a lot, and it's photographers. If you ever go to get like professional photos taken, they're like, I'll give you the cropped, resized ones, and I always say like, or it's like you can order prints, And I say, I don't want any of that. I want the raw digitals. How much do you, like, what's your extra charge for the raw digitals? That's all I ever want. Because you don't know what size frame I'm going to put it in, what I want to crop. And so most will do that. You just pay them more. But photographers just keep the originals. Like, that's how they make a lot of money. So.
As people become a little bit more educated about what's going on, they will take the same out as the source code.
Probably. But it does really, like, it means photographers will charge more for the photography session, right? Because they make all on the back end of like, oh, you want an 8x10? I'll print those for you. And they crop and print and upcharge you for the print and stuff. So, okay. So then we went back into the typography section. So there was one in here. Yeah, I think design is still all about the words. I really like this one. This was great. He just took examples of major sites and just like dropped the text and said, like, remember, typography is still way more important than you think it is. Like, Gmail is nothing without type, right? Like, there's nothing in Gmail without text. Twitter, it's still all about the words. No matter how much you think you can do graphic design, it's still all about typography. Otherwise, nothing makes sense on the web. So I thought that was really good, short and to the point. Yeah. So there's some talk about what information design was. There's a quote I had here: to divide up and organize and interpret this mass of printed matter in such a way that the reader will have a good chance of finding what is of interest to him. That was kind of the idea behind information design. I need to communicate what it is that they're interested in,
But that was
as simply as possible.
Yeah, but that was a quote from 1969, but it feels completely relevant today.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
God, how do we get through this mass of matter of
Mhm.
information? In that sense of it.
I don't have a whole lot of quotes here, but choosing the right font, they said if you can set your copy to 10 pixel and still make out what it says, it's a good indication you've chosen a readable font. Wasn't necessarily saying keep it at 10 pixel, but he just said, like, the question really is readability, right? There are a lot of times when you on the web more than anything, right? Because the web makes it so easy to, like, just try whatever. I mean, you can go to Google Fonts, and there's, I don't know, 818 fonts. As a designer, as an amateur designer, I can just go, let's see here. Oh, this looks good. Let's put the New York Times in league script. And it's like, you probably shouldn't do that. You should probably do something that's readable. So, Helvetica, I guess. But that was his big thing, was just, shrink it down to 10 pixel. Can you still read it? Like, shrink that down to 10 pixel.
I think it's
Nope. Not a fucking chance.
Is there even anything there?
Yeah, not a chance.
Well,
yeah.
I think it's good to hear that, because when you are overwhelmed with all of these options, it's okay to say, well, if it's readable, that's probably good enough. But then there was another, I don't remember who it was, maybe in Helvetic or something. No, a different talk where he said, so that's true, but also it's true that readability doesn't just mean can you read it, but do you want to read it? And so that's a subtle difference, and so it's not simple. Yeah. You desire to be reading these words over and over and for a long time.
I mean, look at this is good. Look at the difference of this. They don't all have the same. So the one on the left is 12 pixel, and the one on the right is 11 pixel. I can read the one on the right. I don't have a chance in reading the one on the left. So that's a good indicator. You're not going to do it at that size on your web page, but it's a good indication that this one is far more readable than the other one. So.
I mean, you would only use a script or something like that as a
Display
title thing.
Well, but even like this, right? Like, even this loopy one, that's still hard to read, right? Like, this screen isn't quite as nice as mine. There's blur here, but that's much harder to read than whatever one I had before.
So if you click off the display category on the right,
off,
do those go away?
well, you mean which ones?
Those ones you were complaining about.
No, this would be
League script.
handwriting. Handwriting would be the
Oh,
league script would go away if I picked off handwriting. But then, so this one's still readable.
so I mean, if you're filtering, so the display fonts are the ones that are you're intending to be very large.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so if
And
you
this-
exclude those, then you're getting closer to ones that should be.
Yeah, I mean, these are far more legible. But I think even with something like this heavy is going to be a problem at at a small size, right?
Yeah.
Like that's still a problem. I mean, they might have. This doesn't even have anything other than regular 400. So. Anyways,
But I wouldn't say that that's necessarily a given because 10 pixels is too small for the web. I mean, it's not a.
it is, but I think his point was, if it's
a good
readable at
test of
10,
how readable
yeah, if it's readable, like if you have a question at 16 pixel, you're like, I like this, but maybe it's a little questionable. Knock it down to 10, and then
Right.
is it horrible? Then probably. I think his point was that some people, older people or people with worse eyesight, are going to look at 16 and it's going to be a struggle. But like, if you put it down to 10 and everybody feels comfortable, then at 16 it should be fine. So I think it's just kind of a nice to have. Okay, so then there was a video, interactive guide to blog typography. There's some things I thought were good here. This was specific about blogging, but again, were things I wrote down as just good kind of baselines. 50 to 80 characters per line is ideal. 1.5 line height is a good starting point for body text. So, and then 1.1 line height for titles. So he said kind of crunch the titles up. They can stand to be a little bit tighter, but the body text should be spaced. And he had, I think this is the one where, yeah, he lets you change it. Like,
Yeah, I thought this is a good tool for
Yeah.
seeing the difference.
and you can, that's a little bit over spaced. This is like pretty good. And this is like a little bit tight. So I thought that was very good to kind of see what it had. And then the title, yeah, so he's got, that's too much. That's the 1.5 you would have used for the body text, but he says tighten it up to 1.1 and the titles can stand that. So yeah, I thought that was pretty
a
good.
good one for showing.
Yeah. And then yeah, so he shows like how to do the different font sizing and these things here. These like small caps.
Abbreviations.
Yeah, small caps and stuff. And then he references this site, which gets referenced later, but I thought this was really cool, this modular scale site that kind of allowed you to have baselines and then change. This did ratios. We're talking about like golden ratios and stuff. You could do all these various ratios, and a lot of these are musical, and he even talks about how like a lot of music foundation ratios come into, but here's like golden section ratio and major second or whatever. And so this is what did he call it? Font scale. Like it's near the end. They talk about font scaling, and it's like if you pick a font and say this is my baseline font, then how much bigger should your title font be? How much smaller should your smaller font be? And like what should be the scale that you run? Well, if you do the kind of golden ratio, then you're looking at like 1 EM.
1.125.
Yeah, one.
golden ratio.
No, this is.
How did I tweak it? Oh no, I did. Sorry, I picked something different. I picked. There we go. Golden section. Okay. So then you have the baseline of 1 EM here, and then the next one up, and the next one up, and the next one up, and that's the scale at which your titles should adjust so that it becomes aesthetically pleasing.
Did I show you that stuff we got from a certain client who will remember that the H2 was smaller than the H3, which was smaller than the H4, and then it started going the correct way. So
Nice.
it's like H1 was huge, H2 was tiny, it went like this for a while like
Nice.
that. I'm just typing in the HTML, I'm going, what the heck is going on with this CSS? Like something bizarre is happening. Yeah, sure enough.
Nice.
Oops.
So if you go back to measure,
Go back to measure. Oh, back
which
here.
is I think the second one, yeah.
Mhm.
So
Oh yeah.
So there's a bookmarklet I like to use called 45 to 75, which is on CSS Tricks. I think that's it.
Is that going to be a terrible Google? Oh, Chrome Web Store. Character
No, I
counter.
didn't
What's
use
the
that
second
one. I used
Second one.
Bookmarklet?
CSS.
CSS
That might
tricks.
be it. Yeah, CSS Tricks. Yeah. So if you scroll down, should show up there. Yeah, you just scrolled it out of view. But then, if you click that button, which you can drag up to your bookmark, and then click on,
I can put it up here. Right.
if you have a what's your bookmark button. Anyway, so yeah,
I
so
don't know what I just did. Oh God.
what did you do?
I don't
Okay.
know.
So rerun it. So if you click that and then click on a piece of text beneath it,
Oh, I see.
well, that's not an example because it's short,
Yeah,
but
sorry.
yeah, that one. it'll show you where the 45th character is and the 75th character is. And so you can actually start to like mess with, you know, in a fluid sized, you can sort of mess with it and see where that nice line length is, and then use that to make some decisions about breakpoints. Because you know, if you
can see like
don't
that
want is to
example
stretch
where
your
it is.
window all the way across, and the line is, you know, goes from here to here, and how do you find what the next line is
Yeah.
when you come back?
Unlike this monitor, you'd be like moving your chair.
Sliding your chair side to side, like a typewriter.
Oh, that's cool. And then so then he had like you could widen and you could shrink. Right. I was actually surprised at how not offended I was by 40 character. Like
Oh my God, I am so offended. When you go down.
actually wasn't.
When you go down like right there, especially if you were to get the previous and next. I've found myself, you know, like scrolling down at the bottom of a web page, a blog or whatever, and I'm sitting here on this monitor.
Oh yeah.
Which is like this, right?
Uh,
And I'm like scroll,
Right.
scroll because the text is, you know, roughly 16 pixels across, and I have this 6,000 thing monitor. I've got all this blank space over there and all this blank space over there, right? And I just pisses me off no end.
Yeah.
So you don't like the big
So yeah, I'm okay with those. They're okay. You know, it's interesting though. Like I run my Kindle on like a bigger font than the normal. It's just more comfortable. And like my wife picked up my Kindle the other day and she was like, "What are you, blind? What is this?" Like, you know, and I looked at hers and it was like text for ants. I was like, huh? But my books are like 900 Kindle pages and hers are like 450 Kindle pages, right? Because I have like big text, so it's just like way more big. But it's far more comfortable to have less per line for me. And like, you know, I even mess with the line spacing in my Kindle too, to spread it out a little bit
I
more.
actually find if it's too big, like I feel myself read the act of reading more than just being lost in the.
There is a point, like I tried bumping it
Touching
up
stuff.
like a few more and it got too big and then I bumped it down, like it kind of fiddled with it. And I think I'm 1 or 2 clicks above the norm, like their default, just like a little bit bigger, and it's a little bit nicer to read.
One word.
Yeah.
One line at a time, is that's how your mind is supposed to work
Oh.
when you read.
There was
You get
that.
lost in the story instead of working around reading.
Yeah,
There was that app that, you know, just flashed the word.
Oh,
or whatever.
just the letter
Just
slides by.
it would just change the word, right?
I was just using that the other day. What was that? Oh, I know what it was on. It was on the Instapaper app does it. See if I can find like an article.
You stare at the one spot.
Yeah, I think this is where it does it. Yeah, speed read. There we go.
I was able to read several words at a time.
They say that this is the fastest
pretty cool.
way to read.
Yeah.
And you can get pretty quick.
I did. I you know what it actually was? I did it and I was probably 2 minutes of it and I'm like, oh, this is really cool. But then I was like, is this gonna end? When's the end of this article? I'm getting really tired. Like I just felt like a little too tense about it. And I was just thinking, I don't know where the end is. How much longer is my brain? I did like got to that point where you just felt like, my God, I'm reading way too fast.
Because you can increase that speed.
Yeah,
Once
I
you get
did.
comfortable at one, then
Yeah.
you can like
You can
pump it up.
really-
It wasn't the like reading part. Like I read and it was fine and I was understanding it. It was just like the mental like, I don't know if I'm ever gonna survive this. Where's the end? When will it stop?
It's like the difference between walking and walking on the treadmill.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's kind of what it was. Yeah, it's like when you go into the airport and they have those moving sidewalks and you start walking, you're like, oh, I'm a superhero. And then you're just wondering when it's gonna end. That's kind of what it felt like to me.
Well, you know, at the airport they have those signs that say "moving walkway will end."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Really?
because
Eventually.
Why should it ever end? Okay. Okay. I didn't have like a whole lot here in exploring typefaces. These were just like places to find fonts, like Google Fonts, My Fonts, What a Font, What the Font. Well, What the Font was good, or yeah, I think it was What the Font is the
What
Chrome add-in.
What font?
And
What the font is of My Fonts uploads or
Oh, yeah. What
doesn't
font?
really work.
What Font was the Chrome add-in, right? That just like does it. And then Photoshop has this tool too, doesn't it? Like you can pick a font out of a. Doesn't it do the same thing? You can like pick a
Does it?
font
I
on
don't
the web.
know.
I thought I could.
Don't know.
Anyways. But yeah, this is handy. Like if you're just looking at another web page and you go, oh, I wonder what that font is. You can also just inspect in DevTools and like you can just like a lot of times you just go in here and like click on this thing and then figure out what its font is. So that's like an H1 and its font family is Museo Sans 1, Museo Sans 2. And you probably would see, my guess is if I went here and refresh this, I would see like the OTF file or the WAF file come down, which is the actual Google font that they're serving to me so that I can show that unless they packed it, they might have just packed it in, but
You can search by type, or sort by type.
no, font. There we go. No, they didn't serve me one. Oh, that's interesting. So maybe that's a built-in font. Yeah, maybe. Oh no, or it just fell back to Helvetica because they didn't serve me one. Yeah. So typically it would be, oh, there it was right there. No, where did it go? No. They're using it but not serving it. That's awesome.
Only if you had it.
Yeah. Anyway, so I do that a lot. I just did that actually earlier before we started so that I could get the fonts I had used on Typecast because I couldn't get to my Typecast project because of all the bugs or whatever. So
Wait, you did what?
I inspect element. No, I use inspect element and just grab the font
You
name.
have what? It's up there in the corner.
Yeah, I do. I should have. I didn't think to use that. I should have.
Yeah, it's a great tool.
So let's see.
There's one thing I want to
font?
mention from
Here we go. Source Sans
Interactive
Pro.
Guide to Blog.
Source Sans Pro everywhere. I use the same font.
And if you click on it, it'll give you sizing. Also, sometimes, via Google Web Fonts, so it tells you exactly what it is. Line height. In the interactive guide, one thing I thought was great advice is don't use the darkest black available for body text. You know, by default, you're just getting
click off
000, but there's nothing really that's 000 in the world, so it's very unnatural or in print. So something less than pure black, and actually on something that's not quite pure white is a more natural way to read it.
Okay, and then well, I didn't have anything on. I was exploring the world of typefaces.
So I did, which was one of the things I've struggled with is, you know, they say that, you know, these fonts have personalities or whatever, and that's always been something that's kind of difficult for me to actually look at something and say, look. But if you go to the Hoffler Fair Jones website and click on each of their fonts, they give their like description, sweet but not saccharine, earnest but not grave, and just reading through these, I don't know, it helped me just to kind of put some of those ideas to fonts in a way.
How do I get this information?
So like if you go, where were you?
Just like
Where are you?
I would clicked on.
Okay, so up at the top where it says fonts, for
Oh,
example, and click on Archer. And so each of their fonts have these overviews.
Oh, I see.
And they get into
Sweet,
this
but
sort
not
of, they
saccharine.
like try to explain the thinking, the feelings behind these fonts. And so just sitting and reading these helped me get build that up a little bit. Jesus.
I was just gonna say, don't worry, it'll go away. But it's
Spoken like a true developer. It's a font.
It's important to recognize that it does. Certain fonts are gonna elicit certain.
Smart, tough, and sexy. Hello, tungsten. It makes a difference, and it makes a difference. And anybody that consumes this design would never say any of this, right? But they'll tell you that that's the wrong font. Like they'll say, "Oh, that font looks too aggressive." Why does that font look aggressive? Is it because it's bold? Is it because it's big? Is it because like its kerning is tight? Does it what is it about the font that makes it aggressive?
Exactly.
So yeah, no, I mean, it as someone who designs these things, it's important to know that, but they're never gonna a majestic typeface. That's cool. Okay, you got anything else on that section?
No, not really on.
Okay.
No.
So responsive typography in action. So I liked. I really liked the contrast through scale. This is where he talks about the modula scale, modula scale or whatever. But I thought this was a really good article, just explaining what you can do simply by changing scales and fonts, and like what the typographic scale should be, and why the typographic scale is what it is. Like there's a little bit of history in here of like, this is how they were originally cut, and this is the sizes that they had. But this is where he mentions how newspapers are great at this. Like they do a really good job of contrasting font scales. Although I think this is a bad example, mainly because the difference in the fonts annoyed me. Like this font up here is different than that,
Use
than
what
that,
font?
and that. I think that's an image, but maybe it'll work. Yeah, it's just it thinks it's Myriad Pro. I could
But-
go to the Guardian website and figure it out. But they do a great job of calling your eye to somewhere, right? Like schools
the
out.
purpose of it is to tell you how to enter a given piece of information and work your way down into it. And it's a,
You looked at YouTube lately, any YouTube comments? Sorry, YouTubers, we're forgetting about you a bit. Probably way behind. if
There's
you
a
had it.
great quote above though, which I wrote down, which was when it listed the various things you can create contrast with. And then he says,
oh,
he
yeah.
just compares it to making mixed drinks.
Oh, yeah.
Combine them in an ad hoc manner, however, and the result is the opposite. A bar's spill trough at the end of it.
In a word, revolting. Yeah, so it goes back to that image that they said, the web is still all about typography. And so if that's the case, like for instance, if you look at this web page and you dropped all the type, you'd have no idea what was going on. In fact, it would look quite odd to have this this person up here and then have these here and then like this guy. Like it would be very odd to just see the imagery. But they're doing a lot with typography, with sizes, with scaling, with bold versus not bold, that sort of thing. So, and then he had this example of, even in like the context of a kids thing here, you can afford to have smaller type and ignore some of the guidelines about legibility because you know your audience a little bit better, and you're trying to like build a scene, and like younger kids have better eyesight typically, and like they're not going to be straining, and they're not necessarily going to care, and it's more about like the feel of the font, and so
If they keep reading font that small, they
that's
will
true.
have bad
Yeah,
eyesight.
they will, yeah. And then he talks about reading distances and text quantity, how much to show someone. So this is your argument about I have this gigantic screen and I can't see enough, and he kind of says do some A/B testing, and then established in the 16th century, used the typographic scales that we had, and this is was limited mainly by the technology they had, and this is the scale, and then how we would translate that to the web by using EMs, and then he talks about how these are rooted in math and how you can use some different scales. He explores the Fibonacci sequence on which to scale your text, and then considering ratios, the golden rule, and then some of the other ratios, and that's where he mentions the modular site we showed earlier. And he's just saying how to translate these ratios, like what your H1 should be, what your H2. And he did say in here, when defining your baseline font size, start with your P tag. Like everything is anchored off that because you probably have more P tags on your site than anything else. And so like that's your font size, and then scale from there. P tag div, I don't know, whatever, but it's the idea. Spam, yeah. And then there was this crazy thing at the end. It didn't work on my computer though. Or maybe it was the end.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
the face thing.
Yeah, that was really cool actually.
Let me see if it works now. Did it work for you?
It works in Firefox, not in Chrome.
I don't know if I have Firefox. I didn't know what it did, but I think it was going to take a picture of my face and
No.
figure out what
Yeah,
font
so
to
how
use.
close you are, based on how close you are. So the screen, it will resize
Okay,
the text.
share.
Let's see it.
It's probably pissed because Google Hangouts is sharing or something. So what do? You just like get really fit?
So
and then,
you'll-
at reading distance? Is that
So
what
it'll show you, you'll see your face, and it's measuring how close you are to the screen. And as you get closer, it can make the font smaller. And as you get
That's cool.
further away, it makes the font bigger.
That's cool.
Which is, something that doesn't exist in books, but makes makes sense. It adapts to how far you are away from it. And that was actually one thing I got from the responsive typography section.
I think we call that an art.
Yeah.
Got two of them.
The font size doesn't change.
If I don't have my glasses on.
Right. Yeah. But the text doesn't change. But right, yeah, and we're going to focus on it. But there was a quote, and this was a trick I didn't know before, and I just love it, which is to get a sense of the font size on your, something you build on your software application, is get a good book that has nice typography and hold it up at reading distance, and then line it up with the text on your screen at screen distance, and they should be approximately the same. So, this might be a 12-point font, this might be a 16-pixel font, but when you look at them side to side with this band, and they should be about the same size. And that was, I've always struggled with, why is it 12 pixel on the printed page and 6? And of course, it's because this is further away, so it needs to be bigger. But as things get even further, like we have these bigger screens that are at the back of our desks. That's an interesting way to figure out what would the right size be. You hold up a book and you compare it to what's on the screen, rather than just arbitrary. 16 pixel is the default.
Now you gotta find a
browser.
good book. That's gonna take a while.
Right now,
Because I don't think my
Well-designed
Kindle,
book.
holding my Kindle up wouldn't do the right thing. I don't think. I had a couple. I actually did like this site. He just linked to the Great Discontent because it was like a really good use of typographic scale, and I thought this article in particular did a good job. So you've got a big call out here, and then you've got this little sub byline, but in all caps. And then you've got some bold, and you've got some pull quotes and stuff. And then it does a really good job of doing responsiveness and keeping the font scale proportionally. And their big header. So I have no idea what this article is about. It didn't really matter, but it does a really good job of just typographic scale and balance and stuff. So I thought that was pretty good. And I had one other quote. I don't remember which one it came from, but it said, if you have a type, I think it was one of the movies. It was this movie, I think. Yes.
The State University.
And which I was trying to scrub to find the quote. It said, if you have a typeface and a color, you have a brand. That's all it takes. Just pick a typeface and a color, and you're branded. Because everyone's like, can I get a logo? Can I get a brand? Give me a typeface and a color, and you've got yourself a brand. Which is pretty true. If you think about any of the brands that stick out in your mind, you probably can picture their color and their sign, right? Whatever it says. It says Best Buy or Staples or whatever, Costco or something. You can think of their color on the brand.
It's also a lot cheaper.
I don't know. There's a lot that goes into good typography, as we've learned. I mean, it is harder to kind of make art, but yeah. Okay, and then typography in practice, where to go from here, and the elements of typographic style applied to the web, I thought was very good. There's some good quotes I got from that. Just talking about what an EM is, or an M.
M.
Yeah, it's pronounced M, and it approximates the size of an uppercase letter M. It's basically how they're doing it, and he talks about all relative sizing based on M's. And then just a couple of bullet points. So they said, so this was a big book, and he said go through the 2.1 to 2.5, 2.11 to 2.15 to go through kind of the 5 principles here and see. And there was more obviously to this, but I read through the first chunk of principles here, and I had 66 character line is widely considered ideal. So 40 to 80 or whatever. And I think 66 is kind of like a good middle of the ground. For multi-column layout, like newspaper style multi-column, the average is 40 to 50 characters. And then he talked about doing text justification and CSS3 adding justification refinements, which was here, I think. Yeah, and he said with CSS3 you can do text justified inter-word or inter-character to figure out where to
How to spread
how
them
to
out
spread
to fill
the
line.
spread out to fill a line. So yeah, that was pretty good. Do you have anything else there? Just a few other things about Unicode characters. Oh yeah, this is the one where he talked about using the Unicode characters for the spacing, and you should use thin space. Names such as WB, Yitz, and these little dots here should be a thin space. And so, like, if you actually click, let's see if I could get it there. You see that? You probably can't even see that. There's a tiny little vertical line in between the period and the B, because he put like a thin space. If that works. Yeah, see that? It's thin space. No one in the world thinks to do that, right? But I thought it was pretty interesting to know that you could do that. And he had another page that showed like
On that page of WB and ACL has a language base.
yeah, it's much bigger
So
than
expand it again or pull out again.
that. A gap there versus
It looks more natural.
the gap there. Yeah. Mhm. But you wouldn't notice that unless you saw it next to one that was done correctly.
Right.
So. And I highly doubt you're going to contact tech support if the spacing between their so he had, this is the one he had the other like Unicode characters to do the various spaces, a single M space, and then all the way down to hair space. So you can hair space was that thing on or thin space, punctuation space. So it's good to know that you can put these characters in to force a distinct number of spaces. Don't use non-breaking space.
It's funny to think, I mean, we're still, like that used to be little pieces of metal we put in. Like, we're still doing that same thing.
And then he said also like now you can do white space pre, right? And then to be more semantic, use the pre tag. I think he mentioned it here, right?
Well, if it's
However, if you're using whitespace to format a passage of text, for instance, computer code or poetry, then you should enclose the passage in a pre-element, as this is more semantic way to preserve the whitespace pre-formatting. And this is a block of text that I want to mess with the pre-white spacing. So to do, like, he's basically saying, like, on a newspaper article or whatever, you don't want to space that first character in 6, M's or whatever. You should not put a whole bunch of non-breaking spaces because they're not really going to do the right thing. But you can use, one of these to do that. All right, cool. Probably about the end of it. Yeah, I had a couple other things like these last couple ones, like this. You got to be a freaking dork to do this. Like this is like interviews. No, this is like interviews with like typography. I don't even know. Like typographic Chinese whispers too. I'll add that to my podcast list. Yeah. I mean, if you're into this or whatever, I guess, but I couldn't bring myself to even listen to one of those and see what it was. So that was pretty nerdy. And then this one, what was this one? I already forgot. Oh yeah, this is just like a web blog on the industry of typography, which again, got to be pretty nerdy to be into that. So cool.
I did like the section on the grid systems,
Oh yes.
although it was
His website was really nice. I thought.
were broken.
Like one of them was right. Like yeah, these sublinks were dead.
But
That's
that's where the interesting stuff was. So
Did you find them?
if you just search for that, then they come up. But there were some good diagrams about taking a page and actually like drawing lines.
Do you have the link? Which one was that?
Just
Ratios.
chat it or Skype it or something.
Right. we'll do that.
Oh, here we go. I found it. 5 simple systems, designing
Yeah.
a grid system,
And so,
applying the golden section rule.
you know, and it's just ways of breaking up a page
Sorry, I'm
with a
fluxing.
meaningful methodology, and then using the lines that result so that everything that gets placed on it is related to those lines. And that just makes it a cohesively designed piece.
And so when you're doing this, you would pull grid lines in Photoshop to do this.
So yeah, in Photoshop, there are templates that give you grids, you know, whether it's like 12 columns with whatever size gutter, but having that structure allows you to just know that, well, if I line these things up with these columns, and I can even spread them across, but as long as they're always lining up in this grid, it's gonna pull it together and give it this aesthetic sense. It's going to make sense, right? It's really just like with the typographic scale. You're doing it. You've come up with a reason for each thing you're doing, right? Like I've decided that this is always this much bigger, and every time I show that, it's going to be that much bigger. Same with the grid. I've decided that anytime I put something on, it's going to line up in this way. So I think grid is actually an incredibly powerful tool, especially early on in design work. Like, it just, I mean, for some designers, that's how they design. They don't ever design without a grid. But it gives you these constraints that sort of force it to start looking good.
And that, I mean, that's kind of what Bootstrap was going for too, right? I mean, Bootstrap was trying to give you a grid-based layout system for the web, so you could just like not even design it, just throw things into a 12 grid and be like, whatever.
Right. But it's a little backwards. Like, you should have the design before you put it in, I think. But yeah, I mean, they're just trying to emulate a 12-column grid with a certain gutter size and ensure that things fit, and which is great about it. It does help a website feel more cohesive because it lines everything up properly.
I find that I have a little Moleskine notebook thing, and I've got one with blank pages and one with grid paper, and I find I use the grid paper more than anything when I'm trying to do like a layout of, if I'm just trying to sketch something. And like, how is this supposed to lay out? Just having those boxes there and knowing that the boxes are of a certain size, even it helps in scaling down drawings tremendously too. It's like, I just need to get proportions right, and then this thing's going to be much larger. Using that grid paper is really nice.
I find that I am paralyzed if I'm using a pen.
Pen?
Yeah.
Because it's permanent?
Well, pencil.
A pencil, yeah, that's what I
You're
use,
fine.
right?
Yeah.
Like
Pencil.
Pencil, like I can just start drawing,
Take chances.
blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. Put a pen in my hand, I'm like, oh, it's gotta be perfect. Oh gosh.
My only chance.
No,
Yeah.
there's always another piece of paper.
I know,
Paper's
but,
expensive.
but for some reason
Burn a tree.
there's a psychological, like, I don't know, weight to it.
It's funny. This second page here reminded me. I did like a furniture design class, and one of the things they did in there was how to scale down or how to scale up a furniture piece from like a picture. Because they're like, oh, you want to build your wife. Well, let's be real. If your wife wanted you to build that dresser in the Crate and Barrel catalog that you're not going to pay $4,000 for, so you take this picture and then you basically draw a grid with these kind of extending lines, and you just kind of do this formula of like, you find these sight lines, and then you can figure out proportions of an element. So if you're staring at something on the web and you're like, oh, that's a cool image, I kind of like the way they did the proportions, there's ways to kind of just overlay a grid system on it and then figure out what the scale and the proportion is, and then make it bigger, make it smaller, but keep it proportional. So same kind of idea.
They didn't Photoshop it. Something useful with something useless.
Yeah. Okay. Butler? Want to do the Butler piece? You got something else?
Oh, I think we're done with the.
That was the end.
Yeah.
That was pretty much the end. Who did their robot butler? Is it just going to be me and Greg? That was my guess. I should have bet on this. And I even lost the one that I had the fonts on, so I'm going to like recreate it in Google Font here. Okay. Robot butler.
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah. Well, how do you want to do this?
That's fine. I would just both each present.
Sure.
Okay.
I want to get you on the
should I
YouTube, or is
send
it somewhere
you-
that I can?
I can. Why don't I post the thing I did?
Sure.
somewhere. Oh, the drive. Can you put it on the drive so I
Mm-hmm.
can do this before?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Hold, please.
UX TIG.
Did it exist?
I have one you shared with me.
Was it Drive or
It's on Google Drive.
was it? Okay, hang on. Put it somewhere else. Give me Chrome profile.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think I just have it. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, cool. Yes.
Okay, it's uploading. Oh gosh. All right, so I'll give you my spiel on my robot butler. So we had some questions to think about as you designed this. First one was, why do you want a robot butler? So I worry about my house when I'm not there. It's like this
It's just a thing.
grade. So, you know, no
When
one's there.
do you
What's
want me to
going
open
on?
this? Open this
stuff.
now or wait till the
That's just for a
background
second.
story?
I'll finish the
Okay.
background story.
The origin story of the butler.
And so there's a variety of things that I would feel better if I knew something was at my house. I mean, one of the big ones is letting my dog out in the middle of the day if I can't get back home in time, or if my kids forget their keys, to be able to let them in, or my mother-in-law comes over, or
Don't let her in.
if we're out of town and I just want something kind of looking after the house while we're gone.
Just a sentry
But
of some sort walking the grounds,
Yeah.
weaponry, you know. I like the way this is going.
Maybe they bring a package, you know, and I need someone to sign.
Scare the piss out of the
But
FedEx
just like,
driver.
yeah, just like,
Hello.
I am Robot Man. Place package here.
but it's just this general, like, just someone to kind of look after the house when I'm
All right.
not there and take care of those sorts of things, so I don't have to worry about it. What problem is it solving for me? Well, it gets in the way of my enjoyment of vacations because I'm thinking about the house and I'm worried about how much we're paying for the whatever dog, whatever. Also, sometimes I have to leave work to let the dog out if I, you know, and that's actually a problem. So those are my problems. Peace of mind is a problem too. So then the next piece was, well, what's its personality? So I thought through this. So it's pretty much like, it's kind of a security role sort of thing, but I didn't want it to feel like a security guard. I didn't want it to be like, alert, alert, warning, warning. That wasn't the feeling I wanted from it. I wanted something sort of like polite, calm, vigilant, observant, all these sorts of things, friendly, welcoming. That was sort of the role this robot should play for me. And it can make jokes. I'm happy with it making jokes. How do I want to
Good
feel
jokes, bad
about
jokes,
it?
dad jokes. What are we talking about?
Bad. Usually bad.
Bad puns. All right, good.
How do I want to feel about it? I want to feel I can trust it to be paying attention. I want to feel like it's a robot. I don't want to feel like it's some sort of humanoid, artificially intelligent thing. That was important to me. Like I wanted it like a
You don't want to be
machine.
scared by it.
I don't know. That's just how I wanted this thing to exist in my house. I didn't want to like develop a relationship with it. Just
I've seen that
wanted,
movie.
like, a machine and
I like Charlize Theron though, so I mean, yeah.
and then okay, and so actually yeah, so go ahead and open up because it said what are some physical characteristics about the robot, so I captured those. So not humanoid, vintage robot appealed to me, like something from a long time ago, emphasizing the eyes, not emphasizing the mouth, something mechanical, square bodied, secure and stable because that's what I want to feel secure in my house. Alert and vigilant, polite, welcoming, and then a couple of quote ideas. And so the first thing I did was I started looking around the web for
Oh my god, you did way more work than me. I should have
ideas.
done mine first.
This is a mood board, right? So you go and you just start pulling what other people have done or just finding things on the web. So 2XL was actually a robot toy I had when I was a kid, and it was hysterical. It was like this silly robot voice, and it would ask you questions, and it was pretty clever. It was an 8-track tape, but the way
The Bee
you
Gees
pressed the
just started
buttons, it
playing.
would switch to like it was really cool. Anyway, so I have this sort of love for the 2XL, so I'm finding myself really drawn in that direction. And if you look at some of the other things that I was finding, they were all sort of along the same lines. Of this
All eyeballs.
vintage robot, mostly eyes, not other stuff.
Rosie. I knew you'd put Rosie
Yeah,
in there.
so Rosie from the Jetsons, obviously vintage robot.
Is
So
that
that-
short circuit.
Oh, that's Wally.
That's Wally, the new Wally, but yeah,
But it gets that
short
like
circuit. Yeah.
mechanical, not like human. So that's my mood board. And then I went through and can you shrink it a little?
Yeah.
It's a little bit taller. Yeah. Then I went through and just started finding fonts that connected to those descriptive things.
Why'd you pick that 04C? Or 04C? Why is that your test?
Oh, right. So 2XL, it was the name of that robot, and it just occurred to me in adulthood that it actually is a clever pun to excel, because it's this like learning. It was the very first learning toy.
Oversee. You're
And so I wanted to.
Oh my gosh.
I wanted
I
to
love
pay
it.
homage to
I
that.
love
So
it.
this is Oversee.
Oversee.
Oversee. So that's the name of my. So it's very robotic-y
That's funny.
sounding, and it's.
That is fun.
And so then these are all the fonts.
Sorry, side tangent. Did you read the thing that was like, I don't know, on the internet the other day about the person who had the epiphany about Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? That's like, the answer is always 42. But then they're like, the ASCII character 42 is an asterisk, which in programmer world means whatever you want it to be. So the meaning of life is whatever you want it to be.
Wow. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So, so basically, I got into Typekit, which I have because I have a Creative Cloud subscription. And one thing that's nice about a lot of these let you do this is you put in your sample text, right? I don't know if you've tried this, but you put in the text you're interested in putting a typeface to.
Here, so this is Illustrator. And
Oh, no, yeah, I mean, if you go to the Typekit website.
Eventually. Okay.
So up at the, right there,
guy,
I just put
04C.
capital O for capital.
That was an O or a 0?
I did capital O.
O.
Capital 4.
Capital 4.
And there you have it. Now I can just scroll through. I knew I didn't want serif font, so I got rid of that. But now I can just sort of scroll through and start looking for things that jump out at me.
Han Chinese, yeah.
Making sense.
Definitely.
And so go back to the doc. So I started finding fonts I wanted. There were actually a couple that I liked something from the Type Foundry and looked at what other ones they had, and some of those made it on here as well. And in fact, one that I chose, I ended up paying for because it wasn't available on Typekit, but I liked it. And so I just sort of organized them based on characteristics. That's sort of that computery, digital looking. In the middle is a little more of a square. On the right, it's very rounded. And so I just started there. And then the next page, I start to move the ones I like, start to move them up to the top, and ones I don't like as much down to the bottom. The next page, I commit to the favorite of each of those sections. So now I have a variety of things to continue to play with. And then I think I stepped away from it for a while. And then I came back, and then I did every permutation of those together to see if anything felt right, anything clicked. And then the next page, keep an eye out.
You're going to shoot your eye.
That's what I keep thinking. You'll put your eye out.
And then the next one is the same matrix, but I've eliminated the ones that just didn't work for me at all. And now with this reduced set, I started to find the one that really jumped out at me, which is that hover unit for the name, and it's called Vox for the subtitle. And then I just started playing around with it, just like put stuff where, try stuff, I don't know, move stuff around.
This is design.
It's just an exploration, like I have no idea. I'll just start, I made sure to break the text into pieces, like on that second line, so I could shift them in different ways, try to react to the shape of the letters of the O for C, so that it could do things with that. And then that start to look like eyes that are like overseeing something, so I put periods inside of the characters. And then finally felt like I had seen some stuff that I liked, and then my final was this. This is the one that I liked the best. And once I had that, I started, again, everything's a decision, right? So that the size of the he'll keep an eye out, I had to figure out what that was going to be. Does it match the exact height? And so I ended up matching it to the height of that little part of the 4, right? That's sticking out. So those all align with the ascenders. And then the the periods for the eyes I matched to the middle of the horizontal bar of the 4. So everything, there's a reason for why everything was placed in that way. That's what I came up with.
That was awesome. I don't even want to show mine because I didn't do any of that.
Well, I mean, that's
No, I really struggle with this part. I didn't think to do a mood board. I should have done that, and I didn't. I struggled with the.
And sorry to
font.
interrupt, but just the mood board I think is really helpful because, in a lot of ways, if you zoom in and you look at like the subtext of 2XL at the top, that's pretty much the font I chose for my name.
Tall and brainy.
And if you look down a little bit there's like a flip bot or a chat bot over on the right there. Keep going down a little. Yeah, chat bot, same. Same. And then if you keep going down, flip bot on his back. Yeah, over on the right, same. So that jumped out at me.
Zoom in and look at that.
Yeah.
That's part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I just got on Google Images and just started searching and just looked at. And
There's
that
all the Star Wars robots.
Wasn't his
too
thing.
round, too humanoid.
Yeah.
So,
How many people here have a creative thought?
It's worth it. I mean, I think if you want to do this,
I got it for this purpose.
yeah.
for
I
this
mean,
thing, but
like
I didn't
Peter
have
said,
that
it sounds like a
prior.
lot of work, right? So if that's not your focus and you don't want to do it, then maybe it's not worth it. But it is worth it, I think. I've had it for a long time, just because even as a developer, just working with Photoshop files and AI files, I do a lot, and so I just need those tools to open those files.
but
If you can add a certain sense of aesthetics to your technical know-how,
Yeah, it's huge.
you're much better.
But I can't stress enough the value of exposing yourself to other things that have been done.
Okay,
Don't feel like you have to make it from nowhere.
So it's 7:54. I want to do a little exercise then, because I did not get this far. I did not do all of this. I had an idea of a name and a subtag, but I didn't do as many iterations or a mood board. But I want to do a mood board because as it did answer these, so I think I answered these questions, and maybe we can do a quick Google image search to get an idea of mood board here, right? So,
Okay.
So don't look at my screen. I'm going to read these to you, and then then we'll do a little mood board. All right. So you can see my screen. Okay. So why do I want a robot butler? I want to focus on the things that I want to do in life, not the messy parts of life. What do I want it to do for me? Take out the trash, mow the lawn, vacuum the house, fix plumbing, fix chip paint. I went to Disneyland yesterday, and I realized at Disneyland yesterday that what I want my robot butler to be is the guys who clean Disneyland from like midnight to like 4 a.m. Like you show up at Disneyland or in Vegas, and it's spotless, and you're just like, oh, what kind of magic elves just did this? And so you're like not paying attention, and like, someone just goes and takes the trash out for you, and like, paints, oh, little chip paint that. Oh, your toilet doesn't flush. Then I don't have to do that, right? I want like a magic elf basically that just does all this stuff. So it gives,
Call those kids.
yeah, I agree. So what problem is it solving for you? It gives me more time to spend with the family, more time to focus on the things that I like to do, not like all the little messy parts. His name is Giles. I've already decided that. His name is Giles. His personality, he's a proper British male, but a little Liverpool thrown in. So he's got like a little bit of like, and then how do I want to feel about it? I want to be satisfied, but like a little bit wary of him. Like always like, what is Giles up to, right? Like not quite sure what that guy's doing.
Did the butler do it?
Yeah. And so like, he's quiet with the occasional grumble. Like occasionally he's like, yes, sir. And walks away. Like that's kind of what I want. Yeah, that's the kind of like a little bit of Liverpool. Like I want him to mutter things under his breath a little bit. And like if you're talking to him, he's got like proper refined British, but like if he's out back having a smoke break, you're like, who's that guy? That's the kind of robot that I want, right? So that's kind of as far as I got. And so I had I was sitting down doing this, and my daughter was watching Daniel Tiger, which is a horrifying show. But they have a cleanup song that goes clean up, pick up, put away. And so that was my tagline for a while. And it was like clean up, pick up, put away. But that didn't fit right with Giles, this slightly shady Liverpoolian working class British butler. So I think it's all right then. And that's how he'll respond to all of your. So it'll be like proper, all right then. But then sometimes they're like, all right then, whatever. Like it's you're a little bit off, right?
I like that. Yeah.
So it's Giles, all right then. That's what I had. And I had some fonts, but I didn't find any that I liked. And then I let's see, actually I can probably open the typecast and the one that I had settled on, but I don't think it fit right. So I think we should do a mood board on this. So this typecast is slightly broken. Oh, and then I went to log in again. Okay, there it is. Oh yeah, so this still says clean up, pick up, put away. But like anyway, it's like a thin. Don't mind this crap. I don't know what's going on. Type. It's like a thin, like tight kerning space font, and then almost the same thing, but like wider, spread out underneath. But I'm more interested in mood board. I was doing it today actually, and what I was doing was trying to figure out the right term to search on YouTube to listen to the correct accent that I wanted when he was taking a smoke break. Like when he was kind of shitty Giles, what did he sound like? And it was really hard to find what that was. But all I could think of was like kind of train spotting a little bit, like that vibe. That's what I was thinking of. So.
And that's what I would do. I would go on Google Images and I'd look up train spotting.
Train spotting.
Liverpool.
Yeah, I did that.
And you just start flipping through and like anything that jumps out at you, even if the train spotting, like anything, grab it, save it. I save it to a folder.
And so you're just okay. So you're just grabbing the images and saving
any
them.
image that I see that I like, I right click, save as,
and move on. He's
just
like
anything.
A little bit of this guy getting drunk or whatever, and then
or save image as. I think.
Oh, save image as. Is that what you do? Okay, so you'd say save image as, and then
make a folder called
new folder Giles. Someone's gonna wonder what Giles is.
Well, you don't even doesn't really matter what the name is. Just you're gonna come back later and just.
And then so Liverpool is the problem is you're gonna get the football club, right? But I think what I searched for is like Liverpool accent because I was looking on YouTube. But yeah, see there we go. Like what's that? I don't know what that is. That sounds interesting. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. And then so then there's like the I see. So you're just kind of scrolling through randomly searching for whatever.
Oh God, I scroll forever. Because
you're like John Oliver, that's good, right? So it's kind of like he's almost there, like a little sassy.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You're just grabbing whatever you see.
I like it.
You know, you start to what about
that guy?
butler?
See that encompasses almost what I'm going for. Like he could probably clean up well, but he looks a little sauce.
There was one above. I was like, oh, that guy. That's what I was talking about. Keep going up. It was like a coach or something, but there, that guy.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Okay. All right then. All right then.
Yeah.
All right then. Bloody bastard.
But yeah, you know, and you just keep looking.
This is what I was thinking. British working class. This is what I needed. Like someone working, like working class, like general hooligans, but like could class it up a little bit. That's what I was looking for. Right. All right then. I like it.
Yeah, and then
you
know, and then it helps if you're like, you know, obviously something with a typeface in it is gonna help trigger some ideas. So I don't know if it's like.
Well, so yeah, so
sort of even butler. I mean, like even English butler, and see what comes up. You know, but just start any terms that are.
There we go. We're getting there. We're getting there. Yeah, Downton Abbey. Yeah, see, he's a little stuffy though.
Yeah, he's a little stuffy.
So it's like a mix between Carson from Downton Abbey and what's his name from Archer? What's the butler's name in Archer? It's kind of a mix between those.
I would type Downton Abbey right now, you know, because
because you would see this, you would say like say save image here as this guy, and then
I type Downton Abbey and see what sort of.
Oh, way to ruin it! Spoiler alert! No,
there's some text. Okay, well,
I see.
I see. Do I like that? I don't know. Maybe does it match the mood? I don't know. Let's see what other people have done. You know.
Okay.
And then I might start getting onto like other British films or British.
So I was thinking like Cockney accent. Yeah, here we go. Here's some crazy bastards. What's this all about? Oh, look, I like that.
Yeah,
that's like the Sex Pistols. Like.
Yep. Then you search for Sex Pistols. You know, it's like you're just exploring
I like it.
What's there. You're grabbing stuff, or like that thing. Yeah, with the.
God Save the Queen. Yeah, I like it.
Right.
I like that. All right. Oops. All right. So then.
So I spent a fair amount of time just searching for things that.
So then let's say, okay, so I got that. We'll do like one more minute on this mood board because I think it's interesting. So I got that, and then what? You go into Illustrator and you pull them all in. What's your next step?
I actually wanted to try out the InVision app, so which is an online prototyping tool. That was mentioned at the last meeting that I had used. Yes, and it's a free service, and so
And it lets you
And they
just
actually
upload.
have one of their options is board for mood board,
Mm,
and then you just drag and drop all your images, and it does like the whole gridded layout for you.
mm.
Then
So
you
that's
can-
how this is how you did it.
yeah. It's a pack.
Have you done it? Have you done it in Illustrator before?
Sure.
Like, so what would you do here? Just open
You
all
do
the
place.
images. You just do place.
Place.
Yeah, which is Shift Command P.
It's right there.
Yeah, I was just gonna. Yeah, this is Creative Cloud.
And then wherever you did your Giles folder.
Giles. Can I place them all at once? Oh, I see. Nice.
You just sort of put them there, and then
I see. I like it.
Yeah.
There you go. Now you got yourself a mood board.
you know, you're just sort of taking from what's out there and making it your own, maybe, or
Right.
triggers, reactions that
Hmm.
and your own
That's cool.
unique design aesthetic comes not from creating something out of nowhere, but from taking all this other input and digesting it in the way you digest it versus, I might not have followed that path to the Sex Pistols.
Mhm.
But
Who would not have followed the path?
I might not have gone
From-
down the Abbey.
I mean,
Sex
so
Pistols, but-
like I don't know why I did a 30-second glance over this, and these two at the bottom is what is that's Giles. That's
Oh,
Giles with the Sex Pistols logo. It's Giles with that kind of crazy drunken text.
Kidnapping font. That's interesting.
Yeah, ransom letters.
Yeah,
Yeah,
ransom letter.
ransom note. Yeah, yeah. So it's a little bit
Alright.
fun and a little bit wary. You never quite know. So nice. I like it. All right, that was super useful. Cool. Any questions? Good. Mood boards. Y'all gonna go home and do mood boards? Does anybody else do anything on the robot? Anybody come up with a name?
I answered the questions.
Oh, let me hear it. Let me hear it.
So it was 3 minute questions.
It was, why do you want your robot butler?
So I was looking at butler, and the original meaning of butler came from bottle. It was really around the wine, right?
Oh, really?
Now
Wine.
we're
Yes.
talking.
Yeah, bottle. Like he was a bottler, a butler.
Now we're
That's how-
talking.
That's how the
Oh,
word that
interesting.
came out or whatever. So, and I was thinking the time prepping for dinner, laying the dinner, and cleaning up after the dinner is shoot me now.
That's funny because that's the exact opposite of what you said. That was the part you like, because the family togetherness of doing the dishes, making the meal.
During the dinner is fine.
Yeah.
It's the part,
Right.
I have to 45 minutes, prior to the dinner, I'm and then after the dinner also is a pain in the butt, cleaning up, doing dishes. And it's not always me, it's, oftentimes it's Chantal, and then it's also interfering. I'm I got some stuff I need to talk to you about. Oh, I gotta do the dishes right now. Okay, well, I'll think about it later. No, I won't.
Yeah.
So I felt that was, it was strictly a dinner robot.
Okay.
Go ahead. What was that?
What would you want to do for your dinner? What problem is it solving for you?
Preparing and serving dinner.
Name your robot butler.
And so, I felt Carson did epitomize, my
Okay.
mother, because he was all about the dinners.
He was.
But I liked the name, the word.
You name your butler Brad. That's really awkward.
Benson.
Benson.
Benson the butler.
Okay, Benson.
E-N-C-N. That's a
Benson. Benson.
That was
Yeah, that was
Robert,
the little
Kennedy-
black guy. Yeah,
It's a spin-off.
yeah, but no, not that.
Okay, Benson.
Okay, yes.
Okay.
Benson was the name of my butler.
Benson. What is his personality?
He was.
Is he basically
pretty much
Carson?
Carson, yeah.
Okay.
He's pretty much,
Stuffy.
not
Refined.
overly stuffy, but yes. I mean, he was very
Demure.
swooping in
Mhm.
and let me unobtrusively fill you, and then
Yeah.
stepping back to let me
Uh-huh.
enjoy my meal. Right? He didn't interfere. He wasn't hovering.
Very
right?
confidential. He'd keep the dinner conversations to himself. He would
Yes,
not.
exactly. Yeah.
He's very discreet.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. And then it just was would just
Float away.
it was ready.
Mhm.
Everything was ready and served on time while it was hot, never got cold.
Mhm.
And then we come in, we eat, and then it's just swooped away.
Right.
Magic.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you want to feel about Benson?
I don't.
Mm.
I don't want to feel about Benson.
You don't even care what his name is then.
Well,
Oh, you want to
No.
snap at Benson?
No, it's like the
no,
clapper,
but
like-
I'm saying it's almost like I snap and it's
I
just
see.
boom, there,
Magic.
and then
Magic.
I snap and it's
It's not even a thing.
Yeah.
It's not even a thing. It's just there.
Does he
Yeah.
speak?
I agree. That's the magic elves thing that I want. Like I wake up in the morning and all the little things are just done. Like
Yeah.
it's
I
just,
mean,
I didn't think about it. It's all just
could
done.
speak to say, "Would you care for more wine, sir?"
It is served.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. And definitely would say dinner is served.
Uh-huh.
And that may be my tagline.
Mm.
Dinner
Dinner
is
is
served. Or I like
Okay,
that.
okay.
That's-
What are the key physical characteristics about the robot? What does this robot
so
look like?
This robot would have to be. It would have to get around. It would have to transport things, right? So
like
it would have a tray, a waiter tray, you know,
Mm.
like
Mhm.
some sort of articulating arm,
yeah,
wheels,
yeah. it would have
wheels,
to have
wheels or feet,
wheels.
wheels.
Mhm.
But it would probably also
It's
need
gonna
like
swoop.
it would need quick.
Isn't that scurry?
Kickstands.
Wheels.
You know, like
Kickstands.
you know what I mean? Like
What?
the problem is with the wheeled
Dinner is served. Clunk. Benson, Benson, buddy. What are you doing?
The problem with the wheeled robots is they, use power standing still, right? And so I'm just
A
saying,
one wheel, but like if it's a three wheel, it's fine.
Yeah, yeah.
A trike robot could just,
Tri-wheel.
or four or quad wheel.
I was thinking like Segway.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, because you're thinking like he's a Segway because he's kind of
Yeah,
tall
he's-
and like
he's-
human
yeah,
like,
yeah,
and he has to
like
reach the table.
swoops in,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
he swoops away.
I see.
right?
I see. Okay. Okay. No, that's it. Yeah. And so Benson, dinner is served,
Yes.
and he's a Segway robot.
But that's where I like, and then I started looking for fonts, and I basically like this is impossible.
There you go. See,
Yeah,
Segway.
yeah. I started with Segways, and then
What? What is that?
It's a Segway robot.
What?
I don't know.
I've never heard of that.
but there's
Advanced
also-
personal robot. Segway. It's Benson.
Is that a real thing?
Yeah, it's Benson.
But there's also one that
Is that
has
a real
the
thing?
two wheels
Lumo.
and not that one, but a different one that's very
What?
similar to that.
They're apparent. Oh, join the wait list. So not a real thing, but yeah.
I never
Look at this.
never
It's kind of Benson,
knew.
basically. There you go.
But Benson would definitely have.
This looks
it
too
would need
futuristic.
arms
Cute,
that
too.
are-
Not arms.
No.
Like
But
platforms.
yeah.
Yeah.
We'd have to have that, and he would have to be able to,
You can go 11 miles an hour. That's some swooping speed.
Yeah.
18 miles in one trip. Your dream has come true.
Your butler dream.
Interesting. All right. Cool.
Yes, he needs much better arms than that. But there are.
But he would not be. So this is like a large, like again, focusing on the eyeballs. That's how you get happy. 1, 2, 3, 4. This guy. Yeah, he's
that's,
got
that's
arms.
what I was thinking of.
Yeah, he's a bit more
Yeah.
because he's not. You wouldn't be happy and jolly. He'd be Carson
Yes.
and
Yeah,
buff.
he seems more,
Yeah, and I like the long arms.
He
on
has a
that one,
nice straight
right?
back.
Yeah, that's cool. In fact, they have some arms, some robots that have the accordion arms, right? Like the problem with our arms is they're fixed length,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, but you can have a robot that's like, and it puts it like on the table from here.
Yeah.
Mm. But he would swoop. He wouldn't just.
Yes, yeah, he would.
I see, I see. So you know what the thing is I was struggling with? Where would you store Benson or Giles or Oversea? Oversea is pretty small. Is he
Yeah.
small? No, you have to be
No,
pretty
it's
big.
decent size. It's like
Like where does this robot go when it's done for the day? I assume Benson just goes in a closet. 'Cause
Yeah.
Who the hell cares? Put Benson in a closet.
Exactly, yeah. It's like we let him out to service dinner. And,
Yeah, then you put him back. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be able to find Giles. I'd be like, where'd that bastard go? I'd be looking around the house. Oh, yeah. I'd just be like, yeah, it's just like a spilled drink. Yeah, I think that's probably part of it. Like, I would always be looking for Giles.
But when you
Stupid,
wake
right?
up, everything.
Right, that's the thing. And so, like, you have like a little bit of fun. You're a little wary, but then, like, Giles gets to work at night. He fixes all like little chip paint and he fixes all the little things around my house. And and oversee. He's gonna be, but he'd be big, right?
He would be out and about like at night,
He'd just
right? Like that's part of.
He would just always kind of be motoring around.
Just kind of like being by the door or something.
He'd just be like hiding in the
Just
plane.
his arm. With the 12 gauge attachments for his
Yeah,
arm.
that's true. I forgot he was gonna be a sentry. Yeah. He's got these big happy eyeballs, but he'll blow a hole right in you. Oversee. You have been terminated.
RoboCop.
Yeah. Yeah, because you didn't want RoboCop. That's too scary.
No, no,
It's
no.
too
Yeah,
scary.
yeah, you did want scary.
It's too
He's just
scary.
kind of around, just
Very happy in a,
I
in
mean,
a
really,
killing
RoboCop
robot kind of way.
was very calm about, you have 40
Right,
seconds
right.
to comply or whatever. Like, he was very calm about it.
He was very intimidating. He's very intimidating looking, though. I'll just steal
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
the eyeballs and like, he looked very scary. Any other robots? Nobody else? Yeah. So cool. I think we're done. Next month. I've lost my tab. What the heck is on? We are
It's
going
in
to
the
do
user
user experience. Yeah,
experience.
user experience. So that's 9 through 12. 9, 10, 11, 12.
Yeah.
So we'll read 9, 10, 11, 12, and then you have the little blurb on the exercise,
Yeah. So,
which you've all.
do people want to do an exercise? I mean, we put the thing with design and typography is like it. You got to do it. I mean, if you want to like figure it out, it takes the pain of sitting down and being like, I don't know what font. And like that's you got to try, and then you try one, and so that's really the best way to get comfortable with these things is to actually start messing around. Yeah. And so, we're happy to like keep pushing along and having projects to do if you want to do it. If you're not that interested in doing actual projects, then
Well, so now that I've
continue
seen how
this
that's
work.
done, the problem was for me, like I got to that point. I answered all the questions, and I sort of knew what I was going for, and I had some thoughts there. But then I was like,
me
okay,
too.
font. How do I get from X to font?
For
now
me
that
too.
I've seen how to get from X to font, I think I could probably.
Yeah, no, I think that mood board thing was good. Like I wanted to see how you did that, and just doing even that, which is 2 minutes of it, was enough for me to go, okay, cool, I can see where I can go. Like 10 more minutes of this, and I could get enough, and then I can go from there to font and see your iterations. I was struggling with the same thing. I answered all the questions, and I knew in my mind what it was. I could see the guy, like this is what the butler will do, but
Yeah,
then
and
getting
I
to
even
the font was
started
tough.
like I had a hard time on the the digital the looking through fonts and trying to find one. So I actually created a few fonts. Like this is kind of what I want the font.
You wrote, you just drew it?
I drew.
Yeah.
Drew
No,
the
that's
letters.
a good way to do it.
And I was like, oh, so it's kind of like this,
Yeah.
or it's kind of like that. But
Yeah,
then
yeah.
I got like 2 of them, and then I was like, God, this takes forever.
But I think that seeing that you did a mood board and picked a lot of images that also had text in them, and then basically pulled elements from there and then found fonts that, because I did the same thing. I like had it in my mind and then started scrolling through Google fonts. I'm like, I'm never gonna get to the end of this. I don't know what fonts.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, let me just get his name and his tagline right.
But you know what? That's what it. I went through every single typekit font. That was sans serif.
Yeah, but you did that after you had a mood board, right? So like in some respect, you had some context of like.
I know, but I did look at every single one. It took hours, right? And then I went to some type foundries, and they had a bunch of new other ones. I looked through. Like, it's not fast. Don't think it's It took a long time, but that's the process. I mean, for what we were trying to do here, which was something a little bit more, like it had some more. We wanted to say more with the font than just
This
website.
is more like logo design.
This is a
than
little
it
bit
is-
more logo, but I
Yeah.
wanted something
Yeah.
where you're thinking about how do I look for personality in a typeface? How do I think about typefaces in a way where I'm looking for, the shape of them says something about the thing I'm trying to talk about. But anyway, so that would have helped you to have seen an example. I don't know if it makes sense. Do we offset the project? Like
Well, I mean,
we deliver
we can try it. It's
this
just that
project, and then
if we get stuck, we have you as a crutch to fall back on. You know what I mean? Like if I tried.
Yeah, I mean it's
I
it's a lot of work to keep going with the approach that we wanted, right? Like to finish what we wanted to do, it's going to be a lot of work. So I don't know. Maybe we'll think about it. We'll think about it over the next couple of days, and then everybody that listens, give people a couple of days to hear this on YouTube and give us comments, and you guys can give us feedback in the group.
Read what would have.
So for sure, we're reading. I think for sure we're going to read user experience.
Right.
So read user experience,
so
and we can do that part of it. But whether we do the next steps in the exercise or not, we'll think about that.
The project, so kind of the key elements from these user experience lessons, there's sort of two main areas I feel like it touches on. One is ways of understanding a user, and then figuring out what they're all about. And another piece is building wireframes that represent how a user might use it. So for the next step of the project, I was thinking, now that we understand what our robot's going to do, let's imagine like a primary scenario that we want it to do. First, let's try and describe a user. All these personas, but
we would be essentially describing ourselves.
that's fine.
Okay.
Which is great, right? It's a much easier way of understanding someone is yourself, but you try and distill yourself into this persona, and then describe programming your robot to do this thing while you're not there. That was sort of the thing, and then a wireframe of what that would look like.
What the interface would look like to program
what
your
an
robot.
interface. And so there's, it talks about wireframing. It talks about wireframing tools. So you'd pick one of these tools that are out there and just try to come up with a wireframe of, I'm at work. I want to tell my robot butler to blah, blah, blah. What does that look like? That was the high level. We write it out in more detail. But if people are up for it and want to get in and get their hands dirty, that's how we would do that.
So we'll think about it, I think, for a few days, and then give us some feedback on the discussion group, what your thoughts are, if you think you can. I mean, I think you need to, if you haven't already done the Butler piece, you probably want to catch up with that for sure before we move on. So if nobody's going to be able to catch up with that, then we probably will just not do the exercise. I mean, we might do it at a really basic level, maybe, I don't know, just for some demonstration purposes. But there's going to be enough in the reading, like today there was enough in the reading to go over that we can do it without the project. We just thought the project would be, this track is more, what's the right word, esoteric than the other ones. There isn't concrete code snippets that you can do. Abstract, thank you. It's more abstract than the other tracks we've done, so we wanted to have a little more substance with the project. So if you listen to this, if you're listening on YouTube or you listen to this over the next few days, give us some feedback on the meetup group and let us know if you'd like to continue with the project. And we'll think about it, and then we will post, probably next week, we'll post the reading. We'll post the reading. We're going to do the reading no matter what, but we'll post whether we're going to do the next step in the project. And I think that's it. If you guys don't have any other questions, thanks for coming out, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's when you stopped.
Yeah.